First of all, my name is David Strauser, and I am the director of the SWTCIE Illinois project here at the University of Illinois, and I'm the director of the Illinois Institute of Rehabilitation Research and Employment and Education. I want to talk a little bit about both those things in a minute, but again, first, welcome to the University of Illinois. This is a special week for us at Illinois. For those of you who don't know, it's our homecoming week, so we're welcoming back a lot of alumni and a lot of special events on campus, so it's a very, very good week for us, and we're always excited to talk about the University of Illinois, and especially during homecoming week. Just to give you a little background on the University of Illinois, just to emphasize our mission. At the university, we're the land-grant institution of the state of Illinois. So what that means is that we're charged with providing teaching, service, and research that advances the citizens of Illinois, the state of Illinois, and then the world. And we take that mission very seriously here at the University of Illinois. And our project that you're involved with here fits into that mission. And our goal is, again, to benefit the state, benefit the citizens of the state, and in this case, benefit our citizens in the state who have disabilities, chronic health conditions that impact their ability to work. The Illinois Institute of Rehabilitation and Employment Research is an institute here that fits the land-grant mission. Our goal at the institute is to provide training, technical assistance, and research that is focused on the career development, employment, community integration, and well-being of Illinoisans with disabilities and chronic health conditions. And our focus and our mission is to service the whole state. I think that's exemplified by those of you here today and this project, SWTCIE Illinois. We have people from here, from West Frankfort, far south, up to the northwest corner of the state in Galena. And I think that speaks to the reach of this project, from the St. Louis area and Waterloo, up into the southern suburbs of Chicago. Dixon's in between. So we have a full range of the state of Illinois, and I think that's really important to us for this project, and really important at the University of Illinois that we're engaging our citizens of the state and doing good work for them. This project, SWTCIE Illinois, is a federally funded project that is focused on, as you know, moving individuals out of sheltered workshops and into community integrated employment. And with that, very importantly, a competitive wage that is consistent with the wages that individuals without disabilities earn in the labor market. And that is really an important issue for both our whole state and also the country. And this project that you're involved with here at SWTCIE Illinois is a very local project to your particular areas. It's a very state-oriented project, and it's also a project national in scope. This project has the attention of our governor and the State House here at Illinois, and it has the attention of people in Washington, D.C., up to the White House on the implications of this project. So this is a national significant project, it's a state significant project, and it's a project that touches our citizens locally. And you, everyone here, are the agents involved with that. It's a great opportunity to work together. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but I think with the people that we have in this room and the commitment that you all have and work that you've done previously, that we can build on that to really help address this significant issue in this state, but also across the country. So I want to say thank you for your participation. Thank you for stepping up and accepting the challenge to deal with this very difficult issue. And we look forward to working with you hand in hand over the next 4 years to make a significant difference in the state of Illinois, in your local community, for people with disabilities in the state of Illinois, for people without disabilities in the state of Illinois. So again, thank you very much. At this point, I want to turn it over to Dr. Paul Wehman, who some of you may know or be familiar with. Dr. Wehman is at Virginia Commonwealth University. He's been there for his whole career. He's been very instrumental throughout his career on employment of people with disabilities, and I don't think I would be overstating to say that he's a world leader in this area and a world leader in supportive and customized employment. So we're very honored to have him be part of this project and very honored to have him make a talk here today to kind of kick us off in this event in our next 4 years, to kind of give us a charge of where this project is going and the challenge that we're all facing. So at this point, we turn it over to Dr. Wehman.
Good morning. How the heck is everybody doing today? Good. What are the worst 5 words that you can hear when you land in O'Hare? Your gate is occupied by another airplane. That's what happened to us last night. And we waited and we waited and we waited. And then they teased us and they delayed the trip to Champaign down from 8:30 to 8:40. So we ran as fast as we could. And I have no cartilage in my right ankle, okay, from too much basketball, all right? But we made it 6 minutes early. But guess what? The doors were closed. I hate American. And guess what? I wake up this morning and what happens? Take a guess. Your flight's delayed 3 hours with no connection in O'Hare. Now, what does that tell you if you're an experienced person flying with the PTSD I have from Chicago, okay? It means we might cancel it. We might postpone it. We don't really care, okay? Now, why do I have PTSD from Chicago? I heard it. Because I grew up in Chicago. I grew up near Wrigley Field and watched them lose all those games all the time at 1:25 in the afternoon. This is before they were all great and won the World Series. It's 1916. I wanted to go to the University of Illinois, but my mom said, "You're not smart enough, son, okay? You're a B- student." And she'd be right, okay? So I went to Western Illinois. It worked out. I got to play basketball there, okay? And then I went to Illinois State, which is pretty normal. No pun intended, okay? That was fun. And then I went to the University of Wisconsin. I forgot. I also worked at Lincoln State School. Before now, the big institution, okay, along with Dixon. Anybody here from Dixon? Should be, yeah. That's where Mark Gold did his Try Another Way jazz, okay? Dixon and Lincoln were, they were the big institutions. And, then my dad got a little rich. He was a salesman from B.F. Goodrich. So we moved to Park Ridge. I got to meet Hillary Rodham Clinton, and that was it. And then I went to VCU, didn't even know what it was, and stayed for 48 years. Okay. So that's my story. Along the way, I fell in love with the passion of seeing underserved people who are in the back of the bus, one of the last groups, one of the very, very last groups to be able to not have a voice to speak up for themselves. And I really wasn't, a big disability guy that way, but I was very interested in everybody saying these people can't work because they're too disabled, okay? Well, that kind of got my competitive edge going a little bit. Because, I've always been a jock, and I'm still kind of a legend in my own mind and everything. You know how all that goes, all right? So the person over here is Jennifer McDonough, and she's a fantastic person. You'll get to meet her a lot and see her over the next couple of days or so. And she helps me a lot with my technological inadequacies, which are substantial, I might add, all right? Which is why I'm having a little PTSD about how I'm getting back to Richmond tomorrow, okay? But never mind on that, okay? I perseverate. By the way, my son had a baby in the middle of the night, too, all right? His 4th in 3 years. Yeah, and he's 32. Very dumb. Twins, 3 boys, but his wife's got so much power over him. She wanted a girl. She got one at 2 in the morning. And guess what? I was awake because I had just come up by, you know, four-wheel ways. Okay. Okay, I whined enough. All right. All right. So I'm taking a few extra minutes because I got plenty of time. All right. You know, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I might be here to the weekend. I might be here for the homecoming. You know. So, all kidding aside, is this what we want? Take a good look. You see that woman up there on the right with the hair thing? Okay. Pardon me? Am I in your way? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, God. Well, okay. Let me describe as best I can. That is a fairly portly lady who is sitting in a cubicle doing what sub-minimum wage people would be doing in workshops. And she's got a hairnet on, okay? And there are several other people doing piecework in places like what we visited about a month ago. So the reason I want to show this to you to start with is because I want you to keep in mind that these are the people that we want to liberate, okay? We want to give them an opportunity, if they want to work. We don't make anybody work that doesn't want to work. But if they want to work, then we're counting on you. You are the influencers. Dave was right when he mentioned that, okay? You guys are the influencers. Because the people that we talked to when we've been here the last couple times, you're either over them, you know somebody over them, and I know that in the first 6 months of a project like this, it's the red zone. I mean, if it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong now. People will tell you they're doing it, they're not doing it. They'll say they hired somebody, they didn't, they just shifted it to somebody else in the workshop. I know all the tricks because I've been fooled. Multiple states have fooled me, okay? And I'm like, oh, well. So I know the tricks. I know what happens. But this is important. This has actually got Joe Biden's interest. There's somebody in the White House that is really into competitive employment for IDD. I don't know who it is. But we continue to get requests for information. All right, next slide, thanks. So a lot of those same people could be in internships, apprenticeships, or go directly into competitive employment with the support of a project like this. The good news is, here's the good news. This isn't 1985 or 75. This is 2023. So there really is no reason that the vast majority of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, if they want to work competitively, should. So my goal is to get at least 24, 25 hours. I'm not fighting with mom and dad or guardian about the SSI cliff. I lose every time on that one, and you will too. But if they could work at least 20, 22, 24, 25, 26 hours, then they could also pick up their SSI check. And then eventually, if they're working well enough, then they can actually be hired 30 to 40 hours a week and go on benefits. And that's what we've seen happen. Our career is, we run a center, we've got about 100 staff, we've got 22 job coaches, we are CARF accredited, we are DARS vendored and have been since 1987. So we know how the whole fee-for-service thing goes, we know how the contract services go, and we've dealt with it. So I'm not ignorant to this at all. And we're not just ivory towering people. Okay. So as you may know by now, there were a number of people, it was kind of cool, it's kind of cool. A number of people in the state applied to be, target sites. And I know Jen was working with Robin and Jim and picked out the 6 beacons, okay? So the 6 of you, the 6 sites, we're depending on you, okay? That was the big thing I can remember my high school basketball coach at Maine South would always say at halftime when I got 1 rebound in the first half, slap my knee hard, and he'd say, "We are depending on you." And that's what I do without the slapping, since they're mostly women that work in our center, okay? And I say, "Look, you haven't done much of anything for the last 6 or 9 months. You haven't written. You're not doing anything. We're depending on you to work because we need grant money to keep our center going." We've got a pretty good-sized center, about $17 million, but it's only because everybody's working to get grant money. So these 6 sites, it's exciting for them, but I don't even think they know yet the pressure that is on them, because the federal government wants to know what's going on in the state of Illinois, okay? It wants to know what's going on in the other 12 or 13 places that got these special awards. Well, you know, I'm not a big fan of reading the PowerPoint, but the whole idea is to create statewide partnerships. It's create we got 6 partnerships around the state. It's kind of neat around the whole different parts of the state. Going to use strategies to address the challenges, and there are multiple challenges. There's a reason that that the vast majority of people with significant intellectual and developmental disabilities are not working right now. And you want to know what the reason is? Discrimination, and it's hard to do. If it was easy to do, it would have been done a long time ago. It's hard to do. It's much easier to put people in a van and drive them to the zoo or to take them to the YMCA, okay? And a lot of the Medicaid waivers are written now for community services, not for supported employment or for competitive employment. And that's a sad thing, because again, these are people by and large, you know, when we came down and we went to a couple places, I won't mention their names, these people can't speak for themselves. Women could speak for themselves in the 20s to get the vote. People, you know, who have different gender specifics, they speak for themselves loud and clear. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of discrimination. There's hidden discrimination all over the place. But at least people have a voice. These are folks that don't have a voice. You're the voice. You're the voice. Okay. Now, it's very important that you understand, I learned it halfway through my career, we're not trying to shut the program down. In the first half of my career, I used to talk about, we're going to shut this program down and integrate everybody. And then people got mad, and they wouldn't listen anymore. So my wife said to me, "That's really stupid what you're saying to people, because you're going to take away their college tuition. Show pictures, not graphs, and don't tell people that you're going to shut them down." So I've got a new pitch. We're not shutting you down. We're just taking your people out in the competitive employment, okay? Now, you can let some more in the back door, but we're not shutting you down. And ultimately, you might even use your facility to rent to Costco if they need work to be done, or and not just have a handicapped bakery, but have people who are non-disabled with other people who are labeled disabled. There's going to be a day that we're not going to have all these labels. I'll be dead, okay? But, I mean, I see some young people in this room and even some middle-aged people. Sir, I would say that you are middle-aged. Congratulations. Hey, listen, it's better than being older than dirt, okay? All right. You would not like to have seen me last night trying to hustle over there. And really, I thought there was going to be a violent outbreak. Not from me, her. I mean, she's like, I get a text from her. She says, "I'm going to knock everybody over and be to the front of the line." Did you or did you not say that? I said, calm down, okay? All right, next slide. All right, this is exactly what my wife says don't do, but I'll just do one. I'll do the very first one. The sentence is, how does Illinois compare to the top state, Washington, And they were one of the real pioneers for supported employment. So, they've been great for a long time. How does Illinois compare to the top state in the U.S. in employment outcomes for individuals with IDD? Okay. Well, the orange state goes all the way up to 83%. They're doing great, okay? The blue is the national average, 22%. And there's little old Illinois down there at 3%. Now you might say, why is he picking on us? I'm not picking on you. What I'm saying is it's an opportunity. That's why you got funded, okay? That's why, think about it a minute. If you're at 3% and you could get up to 7 or 10 or 12%, maybe carrying Strauser around on a big pedestal like he was, an India king or something, all right? If you can get, you can get from 3% to 7 to 10% a lot easier than 22% to 50%. By the way, that's the magic figure for Paul Howard Wehman. If you get 50% of the individuals into competitive employment, the other 50 will follow. And here we are stuck at 20 to 25%, okay? But if you get the 50% or even 45%, it becomes the standard of care. The standard of care is not to go to YMCA or get piecework, which is, really should be illegal, abolished, whatever, okay? It's not as if those people that I showed you don't know what they're doing, okay? All right, next slide. All right, so just to rub it in a little bit more, there we go. What's the difference between Illinois and Washington State? Okay, Illinois is in the bottom 5. Washington State's at the top. Here's the key thing here. And I promise, we're almost in the videos, which is going to be so much more interesting than this. All right. Washington State spends 92% of its IDD budget on employment. 92%. That includes all the Medicaid waiver dollars, the state appropriations. And Illinois is like Virginia and the majority of states. It spends 2% of its money. Now let me put that in the, let me what goes along also with that is Washington State only has 2 14C certificate holding facilities. Illinois has got 73. So when you present data like that to the federal government, it's no shock that the grant scored almost near the top. This is like red meat. This is red meat. Here's a state that really is better, way better than this performance, okay? And so the federal government wants to fund Illinois. It wants to see Illinois do well. Probably wants to give you more money if you do well. It wouldn't shock me at all if you did fairly well next year or two if they gave you more money, because they want to go to the states that are, challenged, all right? All right, next one. So here's the really key question. This is the question that the employers have, that the moms and dads have, and sad to say, a lot of the clients have, because they've always been told they can't work. When you go visit a sub-minimum wage program in XYZ place, and you start walking around and talking to people, right, like we were doing, and they're telling you they drove themselves to work. And they're so happy that they get $35 every 2 weeks for working 6 hours a day, doing basically putting things on a hanger over and over and over and over again. I was thinking they were going to be zombies. They weren't zombies. How you doing? I remember you. I thought you were going to punch me out there for a while.
I'm passionate, not violent.
You are passionate, and I remember that. Your name was it Lana? Tell me your first name again. Nikki. Nikki. Yeah. Okay. And the other woman's name was Carolyn? Courtney. Okay, all right. But I certainly remember you were giving me the evil eye, and I was hating it, but I was loving it too, okay? This woman over here, she happens to work in Aurora. She runs a program, and she is passionate, because I'm challenging. I was like, come on, you're going to have to, you got to find so many people here. If you're going to get your 7 or 8 people at least that first year. And, I'm talking very, I won't call it intimidatingly. I would say challengingly, okay? And, again, my wife's always like, you got to be nicer to people. You intimidate them, you turn them off, okay? I'm like, no, that's okay. And this woman, she's like, she's not 6 feet from me, okay? And I can feel the evil eye coming, But it turns out it wasn't so much that it was the evil eye. She just was into it, okay? And she's like, I'm going to show this guy. He's nothing but a book writer with his head in the clouds. He doesn't know anything, okay? Okay, so the underlying problem, since these folks can't speak for themselves, is that most people in most communities, your second cousin, maybe your 12-year-old child, okay? They don't think that folks like this have the ability to work. So that's why I wanted to bring a couple of videos along to show you people that we've been working with. We've done several hundred people like this over the years that you're just going to see, but with a little bit of luck, the video will play and you'll be able to hear.
We're getting individuals like Dylan from the school system. It's transition age students, so transitioning from school into work. And what we've had the good experience of doing with them is going through kind of 10 to 12 week long internships, which are basically just assessment experiences on steroids. So he was just able to be in each internship experience for a lot longer. And he had 3 different experiences, one on the labor and delivery unit, one in the laboratory services department, and one in the emergency department. It took all 3 internships for us to kind of find the right ticket for Dylan.
This is fun. Skill that we call peel packing, where we take individualized instruments and sterilize them separately from a tray version, if you will, with multiple instruments. Again, it's a very time-consuming task. It has to be done specifically in a certain way.
Dylan has several types of supports that he uses while he's working, and they've been ongoing as his needs have changed and as his tasks have changed and as we've noticed different behaviors. But this is one that we use to try. We've spent a lot of time working on emotional identification for Dylan and how he's feeling that day. Because what we've learned through this process is that if he comes in on a good note and can get started on time, then he's usually good throughout the day. And as we were trying to fade support, we were trying to identify at what point in time we needed to be called in from staff in order to come in and provide support to get him started. So this is the volcano scale that Dylan uses, and he filled this out with his school staff, and then we did it again while we were here. And these are some additional volume supports for him.
We can just point and say, okay, you're way up here on your volume when you need to be down here. And then, by showing him that, we can go up and ask him, where are you right now in your volume? And so, he'll hear that and then follow through by pointing on the chart. And it's pretty interesting to see that sometimes he's just not aware of where his volume is. We don't even know if he's aware that, he's doing it out loud.
He doesn't use these ones nearly as much because we were able to fade the supports, but we keep them there just in case a new coworker comes on and wants to learn more about Dylan. Initially, one of the job coaches would fill this out with him. He would get a plus or a minus if he completed the step, and now Dylan keeps track of this himself. But Dylan had a really hard time staying focused with his work. He did a lot of stimming, so he would he really likes deep pressure, so he would press into his face and squeeze his body. A lot of jumping around if he was agitated, and the things that would agitate him were usually too much instruction from us and too much correction, because he does like to work by himself. So you can see there was kind of a disconnect where he wanted to be independent, but he was having a hard time focusing and staying on track.
Sometimes it can interfere with his work pace and his rhythm, but the volume is really what's more disruptive to the work environment.
There are the individual workstations, so Dylan wouldn't be working close to somebody else, so he kind of had his own space where if he needed to kind of calm himself down, do some bouncing, kind of press in on himself, that it was appropriate for him to do so, and he wasn't going to interfere with somebody else's work. If if you can match him to an environment that allows him to do some of his stimming, take some of his time to kind of process things, then as far as getting the work done, as far as counting and doing those sorts of things, he's going to get it done.
100.
The lady who's in there, her name is Whitney Ham. She is working with another lady who's going to be working with our friends from Galena. Where are you guys? Yeah, okay. Hi, sorry. The Dixon people too, okay. And you guys are, this is the Dixon mob, right? Okay, all right. Okay, so it's not by chance that he's gotten competent. He was actually in an internship program called Project Search. You probably heard of it. 900 hours. So he spent a lot of time getting training on how to do different types of skills. Okay, and you'll hear more about that from Jennifer face to face. Later in the next day or so. But the takeaway here is that, again, he can't speak for himself. The people that actually that most of us saw on our visits with Jim and Robin were they had a couple of characteristics. One is most of them were poor. Okay, no surprise there, right? And the second thing is that the family was somewhat dependent often on their SSI check. All right. So that becomes an important thing. And then, not so coincidentally, a significant number, more than 5 or 10 or 15%, were marginalized populations, okay? Black, Hispanic, these are the people that have really been left behind, okay? They have been left behind. And we have been given, because Dr. Strauser jumped into this. We've got a great representative. Ronnie Patrick. I had a great conversation when she came to Richmond. She's fantastic, and I met Robin, and you could have a better person from a state agency that's going to be here. I meant that seriously, and then Jim's here. Well, I don't know, where's Jim? Well, no, Jim is unbelievable. I got to get to know him. I understand that he's a hardcore referee. Okay, I mean, look at the guy. I mean, he's probably benching 250 right now at 60 years old. The last time I tried to bench 65, I was 65 and I was trying to bench more than I should. And you know what I got out of it? A hernia. I'm not kidding. With all the side effects that come with a hernia after, all right? And too much information, I know. But what I'm saying is that, these two people are really good people that you're having, and that's a good starting point. So if you've got a complaint, you might say, "Who's this guy from Virginia you brought in here?" Okay, we don't like him, or we don't like her, or whatever. You got two voices that will clearly, ears that will hear it, and we'll try and correct. Okay, but I will say this. Again, I got to use my old coach's thing. We really are depending on you, whether you're directly over folks or you're working with people. We need your services, or you wouldn't be here today. Okay, we need everybody in the village to help each of these 6 sites, because the more people that we can get placed, we can write testimonials about it, and we can get other people excited. And really, Nikki, when you make your first 2 or 3 placements, we're going to have, we'll get the Tribune. We'll see if we get Pritzker over there. It's going to be like the third coming. It's going to be unbelievable, because we need that publicity. We need positive publicity. People don't even know about the folks that we're working with. All right. Now the next one is kind of my favorite one. My most recent favorite one. This gentleman works at Fort Eustis, because we're working in multiple industries now. We were very heavily in the health industry. Then we got into several military bases, and you know, Jen has now got us up to around 6, 7, or 8 different industries and businesses within the Richmond area where we place people and study how they learn in the workplace culture. Everything's about the workplace culture. The longer people are there, the more likely they are to be accepted. You know, when you're around somebody who is different than you, okay, you're black, I'm white, we don't know each other, we got stereotypes, we got perceptions. We start to work together, and you find out about some of the problems I got in my life, which aren't just issues related to, you know, having American has a personal vendetta against me. Other than that, I mean, I've got a daughter who's going to be on a transplant list for, you know, a heart transplant. I mean, you hear that, and then all of a sudden, the stereotype you have of me goes away. I got a stereotype of you, okay? I don't really. I mean, since I moved from Park Ridge to, you know, Virginia, I've made a lot more friends of different colors and whatever, but I'm just saying, the way to break that down is to be with somebody, be around them. And that's where I think our folks, these folks can't speak for themselves, but their personalities and the way that they work so hard to learn how to do what they do, and they never miss work, is an extraordinary reason why coworkers and supervisors will come to them, okay? And I don't know if you realize this, but even though, you know, the Federal Reserve is doing everything they can to try and destroy the economy still refuses to be destroyed. I mean, you know, businesses can't find people. They cannot find people. One employer, you know, told me, well, you know, we can hire teenagers. Good luck with that. We can hire old people. Real good luck with that. Okay. Immigrants, we won't let them in. Or we can hire people with disabilities. People with disabilities don't look too bad. Tell me some more about that. All right. So we got to get our folks out there. All right. So this is this next one is of Zachary. Okay, at Fort Eustis and Newport News.
How do the employees with disabilities fit into your work culture?
Well, we don't look at them with disabilities. We look at them as people. We do our best to get them gainfully employed for future jobs throughout the peninsula. We've had 2 individuals in particular, Zachary, that's employed as we speak, and Tommy, who was employed, but they relocated. Both of those individuals came here, and their work ethics were just super. And I mean, they were to the point where even if the program was over with, we were looking at keeping them on board to continue doing the job that they were doing.
My name is Zachary Ray Byram. I am 26 years old, and I work at General Smalls Inn at Fort Eustis. I've been working here for 2 years. I'm basically what you call a self-made man. I have a mantra, and it says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." That's basically a Bible scripture. It's in the Bible, and I use it as a mantra to get through the day. And I also like to be an influence to other people who want to come here and have an experience at their job.
Other people with disabilities who are in Project Search, or just in general?
People with disabilities and people in general. We're all in this together as a team or a unit. So I'm just doing it just to help a hand, to lend a hand.
Have you been a part of any of their work experiences and where you've seen like their coworkers who may have been resistant or concerned with them, and like seen any changes that have any changes within the business and within their colleagues?
Yes, I have. And there are some people that might continue to be resistant, but we can often win them over when they see what our interns can do, and when they start to focus on their abilities rather than their disabilities, then that's when the change happens. They start to say, oh, these kids can do some stuff, you know, so they really they really warm up to our interns.
What do you think your parents think of you working?
They were so proud of me.
Yeah.
I mean, Mom was almost in tears of joy. I mean, all I know is they tell me every day. I started off not talking at all. I was severe when I was growing up, but look where I'm at now. I'm talking fluently, and I've been doing a lot of things, and I couldn't have been happier.
Okay, so let's take a quick time out here for a second. What do you take away from both those slides? Every time I look at the slides, I take away a little something different. On this particular one, right at the very end there, I thought to myself, this is a guy who's telling me he's using professional language. Well, he's too severe. He said, I was severe. I didn't talk, okay? He's used words like, you know, I was low functioning. But now, look at me now. I'm a made man. I'm better, okay? And I'm thinking to myself, if you're talking like that, dude, we're doing wrong by you. I mean, you shouldn't just be throwing laundry in a bin. I mean, what else can we do to move you up? I mean, let's get Robin Lewis in that Prius program going for adults, okay? I mean, do y'all know Robin? Raise your hand if you know her. You like her? Yeah. All right. That was a dangerous question, I know. I knew the answer. It was a question. It was a setup question. Okay. Well, I'm going to take 2 to 5 minutes and just ask you what you think about the people that are in the programs, in the sub-minimum wage programs. Okay. And if you can raise your hand right now, or I'll just call on you. So, you know, pick your poison. What comes to your mind when you see those folks that are sitting there making $7 or $10 or $9, but not even getting the full amount of time? I mean, you would think post George Floyd, I mean, everybody was rah, 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 and then it just kind of dissipated again, you know? I mean, are we ever, I know it's generational change. These are generational changes. I understand that. Justin Dart was the first to tell me that you're not going to change this in 5 years or 3 years. I mean, it's 2023. Come on, you know. I mean, people, 3.8% unemployment rate. I mean, they're looking for people with jobs. I mean, what's going on? Is it all discrimination? Could be. I think it's more that they just don't know. Because Jen will talk to you about business people. Right? But tell me about the people that you see or that your staff see and what you think about them, okay? I'm going in 5 seconds, I'm going to call on somebody. 1. Okay, good. Lori, shoot.
I think a lot of them are pigeonholed and tracked. You know, so I think that's where, you know, we've talked a lot about connecting with transition age students in our area because they are so tracked, you know, from the time they're in middle school. You know, it's like this guy's going to the workshop, you know, and they throw up their hands.
I mean, it's a normal thing, but I mean, just take my bald brother here, bald brother right here. Okay, I mean, we're tracked. We're tracked. There's a bald man back there. I see him right there. You better look out. You're going that way. Let me see how many stubs you got. Not looking good. I give you maybe 2 to 3 years. You're like me. You're still trying to pretend you're not bald, but anyway. We get tracked. We get tracked. What else do you think of when you think of the people that are 14C, the people whose lives we were going to try and make a difference of? What do you think about? You look like you're thinking. Are you thinking? Would you like to say something? All right, here.
I think that they may be satisfied to some extent with the work and may feel like they're thriving, but just may not know, just of this other world and what else that they could really be doing.
Right on. No, I mean, that's, yes. Go ahead.
Oh,
More?
that's it. Yeah.
All right. No, that's what we saw when we visited. The people weren't unproud of the work they were doing. They just didn't know any different. They were driving themselves to work, getting $35. I mean, I hate to tell you, it's a little bit like, have you ever saw that movie with Olivia, whatever her name is, called Help? I mean, as late as 1960, 1970. I mean, people are like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, whatever, I mean, and oh, thank you for that $2 a day. Or that. I mean, come on. Come on. Sir, you got a comment, please.
Thank you, Dr. Wehman, and I'm not one of the follically challenged. I had to represent for the guys that still got hair that's in the building. But when we visited CTF Illinois, the two things that came to mind were, for me, was that there's a chance, there's a chance and there's an opportunity here. That's what I noticed walking through the facility the other day, and I was thinking, like, this is a great opportunity for these guys, and there's a chance that this just may work out.
We came, I think we all walked out of there feeling like if these people don't have any other change in their life, they'll still be happy. But fortunately, they had a VP who used to work in the non-disability field, okay? So he understood business. And he was very open to accelerating the opportunities for those people that might want to, dip their toes into real work, okay? Now, look, I'm not saying, all right, new program in town, we're taking you, we're grabbing you here, you're going out to work right now whether you like it or not, okay? No, this is about opportunity. This is about chance. This is about real opportunity with support. Is your hand up? Good, thank you.
So when I look at people, I think that they need an opportunity to learn. I think that's important. You, me, everybody here has supports through your life where they might not have that support and they don't have the opportunity to learn it. So employment is taught through life. So they just don't have the opportunity. So if you create a structure where you can teach them the importance of, the things that are around employment, then they're more employment ready when it's time to go out and get a job. So you're not backtracking, you're working in a progressive manner instead of a regressive.
And, hold on to that. Build on that a little bit more about what it means to their peers when they see some of this what's going up to work. What is it?
It puts like a fire under their rear end. They're like, oh my God, I want to do that. So then they put themselves in a position to achieve the same thing because their peers might come back or they communicate and they say, hey, I'm out here doing X, Y, Z. This is really cool. So they're like, okay, I want to do it. So then they dedicate themselves to learn the different aspects of employment and job readiness and independence and transportation and all that. Where before they were just happy with putting X and Y together. So.
And actually, go ahead.
Nikki has her hand raised behind you.
Oh. Shoot.
I think everyone knows my name now. What I see when I see them is that we have so much more to learn from them than they have to learn from us. We spend all this time here today talking about all these supports that they need to be successful. And while that's true, I think as this program grows, we're going to see that in reality, there's a lot more support that they're providing us than we are to them. And we probably need them way more than they're going to need us to be successful.
I couldn't have said that any better. I mean, I think one reason that I haven't retired or stopped work, well, part of it is my wife doesn't want me in the house, but I mean, seriously, she wants me out all the time, okay? I mean, I think this is punishment not worth at all for what was happening to me last night and today. But anyway, this is the best part of the day, okay? You know, I get a great 45 minutes, 50 minutes to people who are not reading the newspaper. You're paying attention for the most part, okay? And I love it. I love it, okay? What you said is so incredible because as late as it is in my career, I continue to be amazed. And we work with brain injured, we work with all these different labels, okay? TBI, remember the Iraq and Afghanistan, those guys, oh, geez, you know, they're getting blown up, not killed, but blown up. So they became big candidates for supported employment and getting some kinds of supports. And what I've learned really from all the different populations is I almost always, and this is going to contradict what I've been saying, but I always probably still underestimate what they can do until those supports are built. Because Whitney isn't going to spend 1,000 hours with her, with Dylan. Okay, I mean, we track all the hours. Now, there's certain people that are going to be 125 to 150 hours. There's others that are going to be more like 200 to 250 hours. But you know, you wind those hours down, but you never drop them. You provide some ongoing intermittent support, all right? Because, you know, these are folks that it's costing $16,000 a year to be in a lot of the programs like, you know, like where you're at, all right? So once you place somebody, if by year 2 and year 3 and year 4, it costs very, very little. I mean, you can make the argument to the Republicans, you can make the argument to the Democrats. Nobody's going to really disagree that a real job, real work for real pay is a bad thing, okay? It's just that people don't believe it, or we're our own worst enemies. We underestimate it. And that's what, you heard what Whitney said. She said he gets upset when they're correcting him. They're trying to help him too much. And you know, there's probably a fine line in there somewhere because, you know, again, you know, we purposely wanted a few people that were high-rate stimmers, self-stimulation, okay? Because when you put somebody in a work environment, and you'll find this as you start seeing people being placed that haven't been placed, and you give them a uniform, and they're around other non-disabled people, you know what? They don't look so disabled anymore, okay? So we had to find people that looked disabled enough so they didn't think we were creaming. You know what I mean by creaming, just taking the easy people, okay? So you can see where he could easily be in a, you know, a day have program, for example, okay? Where the second guy, you know, he's probably now underplaced, and he probably needs to be moved up into some other career, which he doesn't even know what it is because we're not doing that. We're like, oh, hey, look at us, man. We placed him at Fort Eustis, and he's happy there, and hey, we're really good, all right? When, I mean, there's probably any of a number of other things he could do. He could probably learn how to do coding, okay? I mean, we've been working with kids in the Chicago public schools that, you know, it's a minority population, high school kids, and they're learning coding skills, and they're getting internships and jobs in medium technology, information technology. Who knew? Okay, so I mean, the lesson here that Nikki raises is a good one, and that is, do not underestimate the power of the people that, you know, we're going to help. We are going to help, but we're going to give opportunity and support. And you all are in a position, you're in a good position. Both of you are nodding your heads. I appreciate that. Now, you're not nodding off, right? No, I didn't think you were nodding off. Okay, I'm kidding you. Okay, all right. So basically, I don't even know if the 725 is what the U.S. thing is anymore, but, you know, most states now seem to have gotten up higher, or you know, you see where McDonald's, I think Gavin Newsom in California said that everybody who is a fast food worker was going to get $20 an hour by 2025 or something like that. Okay, next one. So what happened is that the sub-minimum wage thing has gotten the attention of the federal government, especially since, we've had a Democratic administration in 2020. And I shouldn't put it that way. I'll just say since President Biden came in. Because by and large, some of the best initiatives have come, honestly, from Republicans. Gerald Ford signed the IDEA law in 1975. 1973, the Rehab Act was passed, and I think Nixon did that before he was, escorted to the airplane and resigned, But, so Republicans will do these things just as well as Democrats will because it's the right thing to do. It's just that we, as influencers, need to lead the policymakers into believing, hey, there's other opportunities here. And I think the way, what I've learned, quote, voice of wisdom here, is don't try and tar all people with disabilities as all people with disabilities. Instead, just say, look, we need to give any people with disabilities a chance to work more than just saying you're going to be, the word you use is pigeonholed, okay, pigeonholed. So anyhow, they got the Commission on Civil Rights to take a look at the 14C data, and they just pretty well butchered, what was going on. Long report on that. Go ahead. We have found that 9 states, ranging from Maine and New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Hawaii, Delaware, small states, more on the east than say, the Midwest or the Deep South. But there's still more than, there's over 1,100 certificate holding agencies across the country. Most of these are renewals rather than initial applications, but what we want to do is we want to try and wind that program down and replace it with real jobs, and that's where you come in, okay? Next one. We've still got about 37,000 people that are earning sub-minimum wage, okay? And I think this is about the last slide. Don't all cheering out once, all right, but the main takeaway that I want to leave you with is those of you that are in the positions, like Richard is, for example, okay, the more that you can, help, educate, cheer on those people that have been assigned to be working in job coaches in this program, the more it will really help, okay? Because some of them are kind of rookies in doing this, and a lot of you are not rookies. Just by what I've heard this morning and by your attention, I apologize if I've been telling you too many things that you already know, but this is what this entire project's about. So, they asked me to set the stage. I am leading the VCU team. I was active in writing the grant, so I know what we're doing here. And I think that this is going to be a great state. Okay, we've identified some really good sites, but like any initial major demonstration, and particularly as a statewide demonstration, it's going to have its bumps at the beginning, and so we really need to bore down, and that means, and this is to Jim and Robin particularly, use. There's one more slide up here. Well, we're going to have 12 trained people. Yeah, these were all of the groups from self-advocacy groups, centers, for independent living, school divisions, just family members, Illinois APSE. We need to not try and do it just ourselves. We need you to reach out to these groups and see whether or not, at a minimum, do they have job possibilities or opportunities? Chambers of Commerce, they will know what new businesses just moved to town. They just broke ground for a Lego manufacturing firm in Richmond. And already we've had communication with them, and they're interested in hiring several people in that only manufacturing area, even though it's Legos, which, you know, if you've got kids or grandkids, you know that that's a big hit, you know. So I'll close by saying that, you know, of course, I got a prime time. 9:15 is good. You know, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock is terrible. But I'm most grateful for your attention. I really am. And I'm even more grateful for listening to me whine, okay? Because I was whining. Listen, the lady's laughing to me right here. She's laughing because I was whining, right? and you know darn well if it had happened to you last night, you'd have been really mad, okay? When you had the, you know, they said, well, put your ticket right down here. I put the ticket down, right? We put the ticket down, and it showed that we'd come in on American and we were real. And the guy says, well, you might be able to get the express bus service. And then he says, oh, they don't run tonight, okay? Thanks a lot for that. You wouldn't have liked it, okay? All right. Hey, I'm going to quit with that. Thanks for your attention. It was great.
Paul, thank you. Is any other questions for Dr. Wehman? Lori, I'm coming.
Yeah, you said at one point when you were going over the stats that the overall goal is to get to 50%. Is that during the? Is that's overall years to come?
Thanks for paying attention to that. I never know what you guys actually take in or not, but I mean, but I can see you all right? No, it's not 50 for this. No, we don't have enough time to be able to get to that. I mean, there's some numbers in that we've written in the grant. I think we said 180 to 200 for the 6 sites over over the next 4 years or so, and those are. Dave and I talked at length. He put me on the spot hard, and I tried to find a middle spot because we could have said more, and it might have helped us get funded. You never know, but if you put too few, then it looks like you're not doing anything. So I just went with my clinical experience, and I figured the first year would be a lower number, and then the second year would be a little better. And by the third year, if we don't have much turnover, and there will be some, that we should still be able to pick it up. And this is where you guys are important. And you're really important because, if there is turnover, we can't let it sit for 6 or 9 months, okay? But no, the 50, it's probably as low as 40. On a statewide level or a national level, if you get to the point where you have 35 to 40% of people like those 2 people that I just showed, or that we see as sub-minimum wage people, I'm telling you, the guardians, the moms and the dads, the VR counselors who are sitting in on the IEP meetings or helping design the pre-S programs or whatever, they're all going to be thinking in a different way. And some of you may be policymakers in here that could influence the writing of a Medicaid waiver that would be for supported employment. You might want to, rejigger your milestone program in some ways to, you might find that that's helpful. In other words, it helps when the policy and the practice are working together. But thank you, that's a good question.
Terrific. Anybody else? Up here.
Hi. First, thank you very much for joining us today. I wanted to ask, I know that Virginia recently passed legislation to phase out the use of 14C certificates. Illinois is working on similar legislation, and naturally we've faced a lot of hesitancy of people who feel, why don't we just keep it and continue just focusing on CIE? There's a lot of hesitancy and I think natural fear, reasonable doubt and fear about this. What did you say to people who have those fears, and how do you work to bring them into your coalition?
Yeah, well, Virginia, Virginia, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jen, don't correct me too much though, but our state commissioner, lovely lady, when she was introducing all of the people who are the partners for the SWTCIE program for this year for Virginia, of which we have a part of, she stood up and said, well, we phased it out. And you know, they phased it out. They took about, of the 3,000, they took about 1,300 people, and they demoted them to day hab programs. So in other words, it wasn't like 1,200 people all got jobs. They put them down. That's what they did, you know. Hey, John, it's good to see you. And fellow bald man. No, it's very interesting. I can't give you a good answer for that because there are obviously on one end of the spectrum, some of the better states they don't need the CIE hardly the 14C anymore because the state of Washington and some of those, their first choice is to go out. And remember, several states have already had the Department of Justice knocking at their door saying they're violating Title I of ADA by discriminating and not having people in. And then there's others that have followed that lead, but most recently North Carolina and Oregon have had to shut their workshops, okay? Rhode Island, Vermont, they were one of the earlier innovators. But to answer your question as to why some do and why some don't, I think, honestly, 14C is a little bit of an albatross to some of the leaders. They're not sure exactly what to do with it. Should we put these people in day hab programs? Because really, if you think about it, most of them are in programs that the state agency leaders don't even control. They're in community rehab programs, okay? So, the certificate has to be, somewhat, significantly initiated by the local program that's got that certificate, okay? And with the pressures that might come with, of course, the state agencies. So I think the easiest way to respond to that, though, is that with the federal government letting out the amount of money that it did, it was, I think, about $150 million when you total it all up, to reduce sub-minimum wage and 14C certificates, that was a message that was to be given to the whole country, okay, and the 5,000 community rehab programs around. And so if all these states that got funded really do poorly, then it will make the initiative look bad, and the 14C movement will still probably continue to prosper. But if we can show that these people really are not being given the opportunity, and they're really being kind of, excuse my language, but kind of screwed, all right? I mean, then, there'll be added pressure that will be put on to get them out of there. But, it's a good question with not an easy answer.
Anything else? Well, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope it was worth your trouble last night. You bet. Absolutely. All right, let's take a little break. We've got some treats in the back, so let's take 15 minutes or so and help yourselves to what's in the back, and we'll reconvene here at about 10:35. Okay, let's get started to the next agenda point. It is the SWTCIE Illinois Evaluation Framework. Our presenter is Dr. Bryan Austin. He is the director, SWTCIE Director of Evaluation with University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Dr. Austin has worked in the fields of rehabilitation and disability for over 25 years and has served in clinical, teaching and training, research and evaluation, supervisory, and administrative capacities. He earned his doctorate in rehabilitation counselor education from Michigan State University, is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Idaho, certified rehabilitation counselor, and certified vocational evaluation specialist. Most notably, Dr. Austin has worked as a counselor, educator, program coordinator, and project director, researcher, clinical supervisor, rehabilitation, vocational rehabilitation counselor, behavior specialist, and consultant. I give you Dr. Bryan Austin.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to see everybody again today. Pick up where we left off yesterday. We have some new faces, so that's great to hear. That really appreciated that dynamic presentation Dr. Wehman presented. It's going to be a hard act to follow for sure. But we're going to talk about evaluation now. And before I do that, I'd like to also introduce my colleague, Dr. John Kosciulik. He and I have worked together for a long time. I've known Dr. Kosciulik for about 16 years. Yeah. Yep. And we've worked together on different projects over the years, but particularly been working closely together on the SWTCIE Illinois project and this evaluation framework, which we'll talk about in a little more detail today. He's also a friend and an amazing scholar that I've learned from over the years. So glad to have you here today with me. Yep. SWTCIE Illinois Evaluation Framework, SAFE. So that is the acronym. We have so many acronyms in our field. Everybody's throwing out acronyms all over the place. And so that's our acronym. In the future, you'll know. So what we really want you guys to leave with today is be able to describe what the SWTCIE Illinois Evaluation Framework is and how that relates to the SWTCIE Illinois project that's we're undergoing over the next 4+ years. Talk about a little bit of the goals of our project in terms of evaluation and the importance of assessing key outcomes. In following up to what Dr. Wehman was talking about, one of the things that I wrote down that he said is, what is going on in Illinois? What is going on? That's our charge, is to be able to describe accurately and provide a full picture of what is going on in Illinois as it relates to sub-minimum wage employment, transition to competitive integrated employment, but also those who are contemplating competitive integrated employment for the first time. So this is exciting stuff. So who are we serving? I think it's important to clarify the population of interest in our evaluation, and that's individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And there's two populations. And the first is adults, 25 and older, and also youth, ages 14 to 24. It's important to also, as Robin talked about yesterday, in order to become a participant, a SWTCIE Illinois participant, an individual must be referred and then become eligible as a DRS customer. And so we anticipate 228 participants to be served in the project, approximately 159 adults over the next 4 years, and 69 youth. And in particular, the youth are those who are contemplating sub-minimum wage employment for the first time. And so this language that we're using is directly from the grant announcement. And so it's zeroed in on what RSA, Rehabilitation Services Administration, is requiring. So that is who we're addressing. So what is this SAFE, or SWTCIE Illinois Evaluation Framework? Well, like I said yesterday, you have a copy of this in detail. I believe it's a 18-page document that's available on the SWTCIE Illinois website. So take a look. And again, I encourage you after today to take a look, and this may inform at least you have a heads up of what you can expect in terms of evaluation. We talked about yesterday how important it's going to be to communicate and develop a working relationship with our evaluation team at the University of Illinois. So it is, the SAFE is a guide for evaluating and measuring the SWTCIE Illinois project performance. And so those performance areas are practices and strategies. We've been talking about that, Dr. Wehman and then Robin. We discussed what those strategies are. We're going to talk a little bit more about those today. We have an example on the construct of vocational rehabilitation services, among others. And then those practices and strategies as it relates to key outcomes. So what are the key outcomes? We keep talking about what those are. And Dr. Strauser earlier today talked about community integration as one. That is an important component of a key outcome. So what is it that we're doing as part of this project? What is different that we haven't done before that we're going to do now over the next 4+ years? This isn't status quo kind of stuff, right? And so that's what we've been kind of working on over the last year is, in a sense, operationalizing, understanding really what is the intervention that we are measuring that leads to or that's related to these key outcomes. And so those key outcomes, in addition, are, of course, optimized and increased numbers of participant community integrated employment. Also, enhanced participant quality of life. So what is it that we're doing? What are the strategies and practices that are related to increased quality of life? And Dr. Kishula is going to talk about quality of life here in a little bit more depth in terms of how we are looking at it, how we're going to evaluate it, and the work that we've done in that regard. So, and then finally, sustained, innovative, and collaborative partnership model. I talked about yesterday that we're looking at evaluating the project at 2 levels. 1, at the individual level, so the participant level, and then 2, at the organizational level. But we know at this project, really in what you see in all these DIF grants, these disability innovation funded grants from Department of Education, RSA, is focused on interagency collaboration, and it really aligns with WIOA. And that's really the push, is we have to figure out how to work better together. We're not doing that well enough, is the message. And how do we do that? And so that's a big component of this, is creating and we know with the individuals with disabilities that we serve require comprehensive integrated services, particularly the individuals of population of interest in this project. And so we're going to be tracking that. And so hopefully at the end, we'll be able to tell a story, an accurate picture that's full, that gives us an understanding of the question is what is going on in Illinois. And that's our job, is to document that. So I think it's important to kind of talk a little bit about our development. I think it's kind of interesting. If those of you who kind of think about how you evaluate a project like this effectively that has moving parts, right? And so that's a challenge. That continues to be a challenge. But with that said, we scoured the earth and tried to look at everything that was involved with this project that led to the application that was awarded by RSA, working closely with DRS, among other sources. So the project narrative, the conceptual model that Dr. Wehman presented earlier, we looked at that over and over again. This is like, we're like looking at things over and over again so that we're not missing anything. So everything was included in a way that we could evaluate in an effective and efficient manner. So self-determination of participants in the project, that's a core component of the conceptual model that we're going to be evaluating. The notice of grant funding to the agencies, which are the 14 Cs that DRS initiated. We looked closely at that to make sure like what we were doing aligns with that and was helpful to RSA, I should say DRS, excuse me. Logic model, which is kind of the general flow of the process in a more simplified fashion of what we're really working for. Essentially those key outcomes. What is it that we're going to do? What partners are we going to be focusing on that are part of this project, that want to be part of this project? What about the activities, and how does that lead to the key outcomes? We're working and coordinating our data evaluation, like I talked about yesterday, with Mathematica. We used their national framework to kind of help inform our work. We work with the data person at DRS in terms of looking at their evaluation toolkit that he was a key player in helping to develop with the Illinois Workforce Innovation Board. And then essentially, I mean, we know the literature, we know the research in this area, and then we have specific interests that we know are missing out there in the vocational rehabilitation field, particularly as it relates to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and competitive integrated employment. And so that was also a driving force is, okay, we want to create evaluation questions. We have several of them. They're in the safe. Check it out. To answer these questions, those are going to be focus of our questions. And part of that is helping to inform the state of the knowledge that we have and can build on, and that we don't know. And so that's really a great opportunity here at Illinois. So a few other things I want to share is we found, so what did we learn in this process? What we learned is we need to clarify roles. So I talked about some of the real basic roles and responsibilities as we interface with you all, who are all partners. Partners are a key term, which means us at the University of Illinois, which means DRS, which means Division of Developmental Disabilities, which means the Department of Mental Health, perhaps. It means other self-advocacy organizations, and go on and on. So we also learned, we'll come back to that in a couple minutes in terms of partners. So really key, again, and as we think about developing a collaborative model over the next 4 years. So think about how you might do that, how that might look like, how your practices might look a little different than what you're currently doing. We also realized in all of this that we need to do an evaluation that is practical. Because what is practical? Because we can go on and on. There's a lot more questions that we had that we cut out. And then what is doable? We only have a certain capacity, and we have lofty goals. I'll tell you right now, we have lofty goals. We want to be able to achieve those so we can tell the story, so we can produce data and findings that helps inform the state of Illinois. Dr. Strauser talked about the citizens of Illinois, and improve the lives of individuals and participants that we're serving through this, but also supporting practitioners. I know that's really important in this work. We also found out through this process, again, communication and working relationships to coordinate evaluation activities are going to be key. We talked about that yesterday. So those point persons that are identified within your agencies will help us. We need your help to be able to collect the data that is going to be important to answer our evaluation questions. We also are continuing, again, I'll share again today, to build our evaluation team to be able to pull this off. That's the question. Can we pull this off? We will pull this off, but we want to do it well. We want to do it objectively. And so this is really what we learned over the last year. So it's been kind of an interesting process for sure, and it's we're looking forward to it. So here's the logic model I was referring to that we updated to make sure that we included information. So what you see at the top is the situation. So Dr. Wehman really spelled it out quite frankly, I would say, as to what the state of the knowledge is in terms of competitive integrated employment for the population that we're going to be serving and the nature of sub-minimum wage employment. So what we know in terms of the situation is that it is an outdated model. Okay, that's one of the many current status of the situation, what led to this kind of project. There is movement toward the closure of sub-minimum wage employment settings across the country at a national level. Dr. Strauser talked about that the governor is looking at this, but also it leads up to Washington, D.C. We also know that individuals and their families want full integration into our communities. And so these are all the kind of situational factors that we're looking at, that we're going to continue to look at over time that influence the outcomes. Okay? But we also look at the bottom there, contextual factors. Well, what are those? Well, those are policies, procedures that are currently in place in working related to sub-minimum wage employment. Dr. Wehman talked about the issue of holding people back is discrimination. So another thing we're going to be looking at that relates to that is attitudes. How does attitudes influence the project over time? And again, we're looking at the full picture. And we want to be honest about what that full picture is. It's as to how those attitudes affect this work that we're doing, and the outcomes in particular. That's really what's driving our questions. Contracts that are currently in place, the policies that are currently in place, do they benefit, are they favorable to the individuals what we're serving? So we're kind of throwing everything on there to better understand what those contextual factors are and how they relate to and help tell the story of the project as it relates to those long-term outcomes or those key outcomes I talked about earlier. One of the stats in the prior presentation that I looked at was profiles are not different for CIE for those in sub-minimum wage employment. So we're going to be looking at, so this is kind of a real-time thing, the profiles of DRS customers that are SWTCIE participants in terms of what is the profile that of that population that we're serving that are coming from sub-minimum wage employment or that are contemplating employment for the first time. Again, to better understand who the population it is that we're serving. So back to the partners. So we look in the middle here, partners. So partners, they were listed earlier. They were listed on that conceptual model, but there's several of them. So parents, families, advocates, and guardians, we're going to want to talk to them to get their story. Practitioners across DRS and other agencies that are involved, schools that are involved in this project, they're a partner, and we're going to want to get information from them. And CIE employers, we're going to want to know more about what they think and what their perspectives are on the project and hiring SWTCIE participants. Activities, so other activities, so those essentially are the services, those practices and strategies they talked about earlier, that are like what we're evaluating in terms of importance. Interagency collaboration, that's a strategy. The memorandums of understandings across the agencies, that's something that we're looking at. This event here, outreach, training, and technical assistance, we're looking at that. Also, like what VCU is providing in terms of supported employment, customized employment. That's a big intervention in terms of the technical support that they're providing and training. How does that have impact in relation to training employment specialists to provide extra services? So the extra goodies, as Robin talked about yesterday, is these extra services that we're providing. We have a whole team that are experts that are coming to the state of Illinois to help get people up to speed and help support them to reframe and change practices to, to what has been shown to be, supported by the literature or evidence-based. Of course, the agencies, 14C organizations, and other state agencies and community-based agencies. So, I'm sorry, I went back to the partners, but that just kind of reemphasizes those partners lead to those activities. That's who's providing those activities, and so those are what we're really going to be looking like. The short-term outcomes is really the same outcomes as the key outcomes that I talked about earlier, but that really it's like a formative evaluation I talked about yesterday. Year 2 is and we're starting year 2 is the project, pilot project, and we're going to be assessing that. And so sometime in year 3, we should have some answers to our questions that relate to those short-term outcomes or those key outcomes I talked to you that I shared earlier. So these are the 6 primary constructs of focus that are the goals of our SWTCIE Illinois project. We want to be able to assess each of these areas, and we have questions and measurement models that help describe how we're going to evaluate each of these areas within the project. So I talked about, again, I'll say it again today, is there's 17 individual sub-areas that we're going to be looking at total across those 6 primary construct areas. So for example, quality of life, we're going to be looking at informed choice. And Robin yesterday talked about that. That's a really important service that the state VR agency, DRS, provides to customers. So we're going to be looking at informed choice as it relates to the project and quality of life. Community integration, of course, CIE, but also well-being. Interagency collaboration. So we're going to be looking at what kind of linkages that we have among the agencies as it relates to service provision and those key outcomes. We're also going to be looking at relationship quality. In professional practice, we know that relationships, it takes years. We had a good discussion last night at dinner about talking to employers and developing those relationships. It takes sometimes years to establish trust. And then once a knowledge bank goes away because they retire, that could be all those relationships and that knowledge goes away with them. And so that's a really key important component to interagency collaboration, we think. Talked about already the training and development that's going on, technical assistance and outreach, and then strategies. There's a number of strategies there that I'll talk about a little bit more in a bit. Counseling and guidance, I brought that up yesterday. That's an important component that I think is missed in the DRS agencies, is to really understanding what it is that counselors are doing that relates to success and outcomes. Everybody clicks on substantial counseling and guidance, but we don't really know what it is that's happening that may have an impact on these outcomes, and it's important. Coded and other VR services. So we talked about yesterday the need for benefits counseling. That's another key intervention here that I think it's a big change as an evaluator in terms of observation. We have one DRS counselor, we have the WIPA programs, but we also know that people need information before they're employed to make a decision about employment because of concerns about losing benefits and so forth. So that's going to be something we're going to be looking. That's an example of a strategy, but it's also a coded VR service. We're going to have access to that web CM data, so we're going to be able to look at the case management system data as it relates to SWTCIE participants, and what is it that we're seeing in terms of trends that are notable that relate to the project, to better understand what's happening, what people are doing, but also services being provided that may lead to positive change. Implementation, so attitudes would fall under that. How do our attitudes influence the services that we're providing and outcomes? We know that that's a big area. Perspectives, so we're going to be looking at, another thing I was talking about earlier was workplace culture. That's an area that's going to be key, you know, as it relates to employment specialists interfacing with employers and in relation to placement activities and job coaching and so forth. And what is it? What is the perspectives we want to talk to, you know, employment specialists as to, you know, what they're seeing and as it relates to the employment side, but also talking to employers and get their perspective. Evidence-based practices, we hope to be able to demonstrate these are the services in this project that are having the most impact in relation to positive outcomes and these areas that we're interested in. Transformative business model, that's a big component of the agencies in relation to what kind of change is happening at an organizational level to support these practices. So we're going to be looking at that. Talked about the collaborative business model. How well do we work together, essentially? And then knowledge translation. That's, we have this website. That's going to be a big pusher of pushing out knowledge, and hopefully it gets utilized. And so we're going to be looking at that. And then at the end of this project, we're going to be developing a toolkit. So based on all the data and findings that we have, we're going to put together a toolkit of practice and in relation to help inform and serve as a guide to practice to better serve SWTCIE participants, the population that we're serving in relation to competitive integrated employment. So we're going to give you a couple examples of what we're really talking about as it relates to evaluation. And I'll let Dr. Shula come and talk about quality of life. Yeah.
Alrighty. Hi, everybody. I have to thank Bryan for his patience. I was listed yesterday and wasn't able to come, and I wasn't listed today, and I showed up. So I'm a faculty member in kinesiology and community health in the College of Applied Health Sciences, just like Dr. Strauser. We're in the same department, and I have a similar background as Bryan. Master's degree in rehab counseling, variety of clinical experiences before I went on to get a PhD and then become a researcher and educator, and I've been doing that for a long time now at a couple different schools. One thing that it hit me recently, my undergraduate degree and then my master's degree, across those and shortly thereafter, I worked in 4 different, now what would be called 14 Cs. At the time, they were sheltered workshops. And I was telling my wife recently, they were all wonderful at the time. They were great places to work, and it was around the time when supported employment in 84, 85, 86 was getting started, so I was involved with that, similar to our SWTCIE Illinois project. So it's interesting to see kind of a whole generation later, looking at things from that perspective. But like Bryan said, I think we've been very thorough, and I think we're right on target, because one of the things that having involved with several projects like this and doing the evaluation of statewide and even national program evaluation is to end up with something that's substantive, that has some meaning and can be useful to others, because a lot of times you look at project reports, they go to the, at the state level, the federal level, you look at a website, and things are just kind of flat and uninteresting and have a lot of numbers and tables and data. And so Bryan and I and others that have been working with us have intentionally done something very differently, and it's caught attention. Mathematica, from everything they've seen and we've interacted with them in terms of the national evaluation model, has been very impressed. And there have been several states who've seen some of our work and have contacted us, other states with SWTCIE project, and have contacted us to find out more. So I think we're right on target. It's going to be very meaningful information, during and after the project. So like Bryan said, we wanted to kind of give some substance, kind of some depth to a couple of those constructs that tell you what we're going to be doing and how we're going to do it. So what we did was, for each of our main 6 constructs, we identified these sub-areas that Bryan went through and that are described in detail and defined in the framework that's at the website. So we identified things that we we think are measurable and that get at the construct. So quality of life, there's a lot of good literature out there, conceptual, empirical, related to the quality of life of individuals with intellectual disability, developmental disabilities. So we used a lot of that in terms of how we were going to conceptualize it. And so one big area of quality of life kind of across the board in quality of life research is self-determination, autonomy, independence. And so in our context of vocational rehabilitation, that's informed choice, that an individual is aware of their options in terms of employment, and they make a choice based on what they're interested in and where they think they want to be in the world of work. So that's one of the big areas. And as Bryan mentioned, if you look through the original announcement from RSA about the SWTCIE projects, the call for applications, community integration is in there probably at least 10 times. I was amazed. It jumped out at me like, wow, they really want projects to do community integration and to measure it and to figure some things out about it. And the way that RSA poses it in the announcement is that they say that someone getting a competitive integrated employment job is going to help them be better, more fully integrated in their community. So it's going to be interesting to figure out how we measure that and how we look at that and talk with individuals who go through this transition. And of course, part of quality of life is employment for all of us, so competitive integrated employment, and then just general well-being in terms of an individual's, what they think and feel about their life. And this is an example of the details that are in the evaluation framework that Bryan was mentioning. We define it, we have evaluation questions about it to guide us and keep us focused so we don't drift, because like Bryan said, this is very ambitious. There's a lot we're trying to do here across the next 3 or 4 years. And then VR services, Bryan was going to talk about that one.
Thanks, John. So VR services, similar to, I'll focus a little bit on the strategies. One of the big areas that kept coming up in our review of all of the documents to figure out how to assess this in a understandable way that resonated with us, but also were true to the goals of the project, was wraparound services. So, and that was talked about yesterday, and early, and also in Dr. Wehman's presentation also. So we're going to be looking at to see if that's a strategy that has impact as it relates to competitive integrated employment. Others might be self-advocacy skill promotion. Is that happening? Supported decision making, financial planning. Dr. Wehman talked about in terms of their observations about with the 14 Cs, that some of the families that are that they interviewed, or at least that their takeaways was families are poor, and families may be dependent on SSI. That's one barrier that may come out in this project that needs to be addressed in terms of, well, how do we effectively address that, if that's the case. So that comes back to like financial planning, or benefits planning. And we know that that's an important component of this. Other strategies might be business engagement. We haven't talked much about that, but that's really another component that's talked about a lot, and there's a lot of movement on a national scale. In our other work on quality employment with the state voc rehab agencies, is how do we connect with employers? How do we turn the tide so they'll hire individuals with disabilities? And so that's another kind of component. And how are we utilizing those resources that we have within the agencies or DRS to be able to provide effective business engagement strategies? And so we took some of this right out of the NOFO here. This was the DRS grant announcement for agencies that were provided. So community of practice, that was talked about yesterday by Jim. He said we're going to talk about this community of practice where we're going to talk to each other on a somewhat regular basis, that I think VCU might be leading. What impact does that have in relation to competitive integrated employment for the individuals that we're serving, the SWTCIE participants. So that gives you some examples of strategies. Counseling and guidance, really, it's just what is happening within the interchange between the individuals, families, maybe support people, and the counselor. What is it that's happening there that may be happening? So we haven't figured out exactly how we're going to measure that yet, but that's an important component, and that's really supported by the vocational rehabilitation literature. It's kind of an interesting component of this that I think will add value, in addition to like the working alliance, and we already know that that's important, but as it relates to the project as well. So, coded services, it's really, benefits counseling, job exploration, the supported customized employment services that you'll be providing, post-secondary education, if that gets as a part of this, job shadowing, on-the-job experiences and training, internships. I think we have a speaker later on apprenticeships. These are kinds of just examples that may have an impact. These are just examples that we don't know yet in terms of what's maybe is going to be most interesting and have the impact. So again, here's just the definition of voc rehab services. It's kind of the conceptual idea of what these services are that kind of pulls it all together. Services that help people with disabilities find and keep jobs. This is right off the DRS website. These services help people find jobs and get ready for work. They also make sure that people have supports they need to stay on the job. So connected to those areas that I just talked about, here are some example questions. What evidence exists regarding SWTCIE Illinois participant-informed choice? What does that look like in practice? For this project, it's particularly important, I think. What strategies facilitate SWTCIE Illinois participant transition from sub-minimum wage employment to competitive integrated employment? And then what is the level and quality of counseling and guidance provided to SWTCIE Illinois participants? So good examples here of just kind of how this all connects together. But these questions are what drives what we're wanting to answer the questions. That's what drives our evaluation. So just some logistics that goes a little bit further, and I talked about it yesterday a little bit, but these are the sources that we're going to be really looking at that's going to provide us data. So we need your help, and that's participants, families, DRS, of course, the agencies, employers, other state agencies, and community-based programs that we're going to be reaching out to you to say, hey, can you help us out with this? Can we have an interview with you? We'd like to put together a focus group and meet with you as it relates to the project. Case studies, it was brought up earlier in the prior presentation about highlighting, having testimonials, having showcasing individuals of success, that's a really important maybe variable for change. And so that's where the case study comes in. So we may follow a certain number of participants through the project to see how they did, and or maybe backtrack in terms of those who were successful, to tell that story, and then to get that story out to all of you. Case files reviews to get kind of a little bit further in terms of those services that are provided, those reports that DRS gets, that you determine, well, these are the services that are provided in detail. We may do some kind of thematic analysis to go in there and do the case file reviews to kind of see what it is, what were the processes. Because what we miss in a lot of the services that are delivered is we don't understand the processes of job placement that lead to successful outcomes. We know that those services have the greatest impact in the state voc rehab agency, but we don't know exactly what the processes are that may, the key ingredients that lead to those outcomes. Document reviews, I talked about that earlier. Those contracts, we know that a contract, we talked about milestones, we talked about other supported employment contracts. There's like 6 of them of employment levels of services that were talked about yesterday. We're going to want to look at those because we know that that creates a lens that people look through in terms of how they deliver services. And we know that with when we receive medical care based on what's billable and what's not, that's how that governs behavior in relation to practice. And so we know that that's a big deal, and it was talked about earlier in the earlier presentation again too as being relevant. Policy, contract, those MOUs, things of that nature would be included in that. And then we're going to be able to, I think most importantly, we're going to disseminate our findings on an ongoing basis on our website. Again, I say it over and over again, website. So take a look, and I'm really impressed by it so far in terms of how that's been put together. Brief reports we're going to be putting out based on findings, and then of course we'll be doing some writing in relation to those national journals to have, get the word out that could be helpful to other, state agencies. These kinds of conferences, other conferences, and that toolkit are just some examples. And another thing I want to say in relation to the toolkit is what we're doing and kind of the idea of the toolkit, the evaluation framework, the SAFE that we're talking about today, is we'd like to eventually make that into a toolkit so it's replicable across states and utilized perhaps by state agencies to kind of help them think through how to perform program evaluation with these kinds of projects that really, the source and the leader of it is the state VR agencies, in this case, DRS. So that's something that we hope to be able to put together down the road to help inform and be really a practical tool. John talked about how we want to produce things that have practical utility for you so that they're used. It's a big, important factor in what we're thinking about. So baseline evaluation, we're in the process of that now, and that's continuing. We're going to continue that in year 2. And what we've done is we've prioritized certain areas that we want to study or to assess. And so we're going to be communicating with some of you to get some of that early data. Also, when we get the data sharing agreement approved by the state, that we'll be able to then collect data from participants as they get enrolled. So be kind of looking out for that. And again, at the end of year 2 or maybe early year 3, we want to have some results and some more comprehensive data to be able to share with all of you to say how we're doing. We talked about that yesterday, what's working, what's not working, and be able to, these are the challenges that we're seeing. Okay, well, we want to be able to share that with everyone so we can figure out how to use that in actual, objective data to inform change in relation to practices and strategies that you're implementing. And then at the end, we're going to have a summative evaluation, and it's going to provide a whole kind of pull everything together in terms of how we did. Back to that question is, what's going on in Illinois? And we're going to be capturing your voices. And partners are everyone, including SWTCIE participants, everyone's voice. That's a big part of this as well, because that's how we really know what's, it's a big part of how we'll be able to learn from what we're doing in the project. So with that said, here is what Robin talked about yesterday, for those who weren't here, is that, so where can you find project data and evaluation findings? Here's the website. Also, we're going to continue to populate it, as I've talked about. And again, you can download this information. And I encourage you to do that. Like when I take a test or do anything, I like to know what I'm being assessed on, what are you measuring here, right? And so this is a way to kind of think about, okay, what is it that we're doing? This is what the evaluation team is going to be looking at. These might be important to consider. And these are certainly all connected to the project and what we found is most important to study. So with that said, again, this is really a big challenge for us right now, is getting the data sharing agreement approved so we can actually have access to collect data from SWTCIE participants. And so we've been working really well, I think, and with DRS in order to get this through. It's hard to get things through like this for a lot of reasons, but you know, we're gaining ground here, so that's exciting. And again, just to re-emphasize what Robin said yesterday, part of what we'll be communicating in part of this process is this informed consent process that essentially counselors will be providing at the field level as SWTCIE participants apply for services and become eligible, and they click the box that says they're a SWTCIE participant, that this is, there's going to be an informed consent process to say, hey, if you participate in this is what's going to happen. You know, this is who you're going to work with. These are extra goodies that you're going to be provided, and then also as part of being a participant, that your data could be used for research purposes. Again, it'll be de-identified data that could be used for secondary research where, hey, after this project, this is what we learned. Here we have this data, and you know, we can disseminate it, or we can do a study so that we can share more information and answer more questions at a national level that's generalizable, that could have, you know, greater impact. And Dr. Strauser talked about, you know, the focus of this project and the University of Illinois is through, you know, improving the citizens in the state of Illinois and people with disabilities, but we're also looking at this, of course, from a national perspective and a world perspective. So what are we excited about? Well, I can tell you what I'm excited about is to tell the story of the project. So I worked, I probably didn't share this with you, but I worked in a sheltered workshop. You know, that's how I started working in this industry, and I was a big part, and that was in the state of Oregon. I also worked for many years as a voc rehab counselor in the state of Washington in supported employment. So I'm very familiar as to what they're doing from a counselor perspective, and I had a lot of knowledge, you know, gained from that. But I was also part of the deinstitutionalization movement, the closure of the state hospitals in Oregon, where, you know, they would move to group homes, and I'd go in there and write individual support plans and take people, you know, to learn community skills, to get out in the community, integrate, and including employment. So it's kind of interesting. I'm here now. I've always been passionate about this population, and to have an opportunity to tell a story and be a part of, I think, a great project, and a part of all of you in terms of the passionate work that you do. And you know, there's no substitute to practice. I have the greatest respect for practitioners in the field. It's been like the second half of my career, besides advocating for people with disabilities, but advocating for professional practitioners in the field of rehabilitation and disability, and, you know, improving work environments and pay. You know, I understand that those are big factors in all of this, and in particular, voc rehab counselors in the state agency. So I'm excited to be a part of this, and hopefully be able to play an important part, because we're going to provide hopefully an evaluation. I believe we will. That's sound, and that is efficient and objective, that tells the full story, and that becomes usable, as John said, that you can and take with you and inform your practice going forward. And this could lead to bigger and better things in the state of Illinois. So I'm excited about that. John, do you want to share?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
You got it? You don't want to add anything?
No, that was our slide.
Okay, all right.
That was it.
So these are the main takeaways, really, that I want you guys to, really walk away with, if nothing else, is that we know that, I hope you can appreciate that evaluation, it's kind of like case noting. You're in counseling practice. If you don't case note it, it didn't happen, right? Right? So we're going to need your help to be able to tell that story, be able to collect the kind of data points that we need to answer all our evaluation questions, each of these areas. I think this is pretty unique. I haven't seen an evaluation in this nature, being done, and so that's really exciting. So we also know that this evaluation framework, that's really the roadmap. That's the roadmap for what we're doing, and so we're being transparent with you as to what that means. And then again, those key outcomes that I think cover everything is, for this project, be thinking about how it is, what you do, and how you do it may enhance an individual's quality of life, but also may improve the relationships with other agencies that you work with that are instrumental to be able to overcome barriers, challenges, to help people succeed. That's it. Questions?
Any questions for Bryan and John?
We're very in tune to and aware of people's time because you're going to be getting asked to do similar things from Mathematica in terms of the national evaluation or the state level evaluation. So we're going to coordinate with them in terms of timing and don't hesitate to tell us, this is becoming too much. You keep asking us to fill out surveys or get interviewed, so we'll be aware of that.
If we question something on a survey,
Hang on, here I come.
If we question something that's on a survey, who can we reach out to for clarification?
Right here.
Okay.
Right here. Me, yeah.
Yeah, Bryan and John's email addresses should be on most of the communications and such. Maria.
Hey, Bryan,
Yep.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Will you be going out to the local offices to look at case files? Because I don't know if you know that we don't have paperless files yet. We're still waiting.
Yes,
but hopefully soon.
that is the plan. We had actually a big discussion on that, and so yes, that's a very good question. We will, at this point, do some outreach and go to your office, yes. Yep. Good question, very good question.
So get your filing up to date.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything for the evaluation group?
So as part of the evaluation process, are you gonna like review VR counselor case notes, and are you gonna tell us like what information you wanna see in those case notes so we know that we're giving you what you're looking for with this?
Yeah, my understanding is we are, and we're still working it out with the data sharing agreement with DRS, but we will have access to SWTCIE Illinois participant, who click the box participants and be able to go into the WebCM for those and take a look at like case notes, for example, and determine what we need that way. So we wouldn't necessarily, if we're able to do that, we can just go in and get the information that we need. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Everybody does case notes a little bit different, and if you're like evaluating quality of like, I'll use counseling and guidance as an example, like how are you gonna evaluate the quality of that based on a case note, I guess? Like what information, how do you want us to write the case note to show that we're doing that, I guess, is my question.
That's a good question. And again, I want to be clear that we're not like the gotcha evaluation police, and we're not like auditors.
No.
Because I remember that, but really, I don't think we don't have a protocol for like, this is for the SWTCIE participants, this is how you write case notes. It's just going to be more about how you deliver services And whatever information that's in there is going to be useful for us to help understand what's been provided and how it's been provided. And if you don't, do lengthy case notes or what have you, well, we don't have that information. But we're going to have other information in the case file if like when we go to your office to be able to understand, like based on other reports, based on service providers, and so forth. And so that's a really good question, but I don't, at this point, we don't have we're not there yet.
No.
But that's kind of how I'm conceptualizing that. That's a good, how you write case notes may affect how service delivery is provided. That's what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead. You have something more to say. You have a response?
Will there be a special release of information in order for the customer to be aware that we're sharing information with you?
The answer is yes, and that is, I'll probably detour to Robin. Is she here? But
I'm right
it's
here.
the data sharing agreement. Thank you,
Yes,
Robin. I don't
so
want to speak for DRS because we're
we're
still in this process. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still working out the details. So I will be working alongside legal to see how that should look. I feel like we can use our release of information forms that we already have. And if we design it a certain way, if we fill in the blanks a certain way. So I'm going to be messing with that a little bit this week and sending that along with our data sharing agreement to legal to see if that passes the test or if we need to do something else. I'd rather not reinvent the wheel. I'd rather use what we have if we can instead of creating something new.
Yep. Kim, I'm on my way.
Hi, Kim Borwitz. I'm with DRS Bureau of Blind Services. So I've also on my end been working on the release form because it does have certain accessibility issues. So I don't know, Robin, if like you and I should connect, if opening this up kind of helps us address just like the way the asterisks are in the initials and things. It's even when we try to make it screen reader accessible, folks are still having issues.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Evaluation
Thank you, guys.
group.
Thank you.
The longer I'm around this project, people are smart. People are really smart. I'm intimidated most days. We're gonna pivot here. We are, because we want to be respectful of everybody's time, but we also are committed to get this information to you because our goal of this is that we're leaving here today, all of us, with clear vision of where we're going from here with this project, all right? And we feel like we don't want to shortchange anybody. So what we're going to do, the Madison County folks have been very kind and are being very flexible. So what we're going to do is we're going to break for lunch now, and then we're going to come back and they're going to do their presentation. So, and we still want to give you an hour and a half because we know people got to move around here a little bit. So, let's let me do my math here. It's 11:40. So, 12:40. 1:10. Thank you. 1:10. See, I can be taught. 1:10. We'll start promptly at 1:10. All right. So, but here's what's going to happen is we are going to do some roundtable stuff. All right. So, we've got 12 stakeholders who are going to occupy the tables. We've got 14 tables. All right. So, after the Madison County folks are through with their presentation, we're going to kind of need to vacate the table and let our stakeholders take over. So whatever you want to do with your material, if you want to bring it to your car now, whatever you want to do, but just know that that's what's going to happen. And then when When we're done with our roundtables, we're gonna break out into our agencies and into our placement teams and kind of strategize for next steps, all right? So that's what the afternoon's gonna look like. Govern yourselves accordingly when it comes to what you want to do with your stuff, but just know that we're gonna be up and out of your seats here. So we got a lot of interactive stuff going on in the afternoon. Be safe, have fun, have a good lunch. We'll see you at 1:10. I'm going to turn this over to Robin to introduce our next presenter.
Welcome back, everyone. We're hoping to have a nice, exciting afternoon, interactive, so that nobody falls asleep, because we all do have to go home today, probably. Maybe some driving is going to be happening. So I would like to introduce Darlene Ladd and Kayla, which was Bosing. They work for the Madison County, I always get the name of it wrong.
Employment and Training.
Employment and Training. One of our workforce partners. I've had the pleasure of working with Darlene for a very long time. We've been in and out of each other's lives for probably the bulk of our career, I would say.
But that's not that long.
It's not. We're not that old. We aren't old to have worked together for more than probably 20-ish years. We're not that old. But
Started when we were 12.
yeah, we started working when we were 12. Exactly. But anyway, they're doing some great things in Madison County. And are you guys bleeding over into St. Clair County yet?
No,
But
that's a
getting
totally
close.
separate workforce area.
Okay, right. So, but anyway, they're very progressive in Madison County, doing some great things with their customers with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They are just really progressive, and I love their approach, not only to working with individuals and thinking outside the box, but I also love their approach to publicizing. That's how you do it, because it spreads like wildfire once people see you on Fox 2 News multiple times bragging about your apprentices that are getting hired by the city of Collinsville. That makes a big difference. So anyway, I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to let them take it away.
I'm going to ask you one thing. If we can put our PowerPoint back up on the computer. I know you put some stuff up there.
Oh, this wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was me.
Okay.
So let's see if is this it? Nope.
No. Let's see. We're right
This
there.
one?
Yes. Okay. I'm not technical at any capacity, so here he comes. I warned him. So don't leave me. All right. So I'm Darlene Ladd from Madison County Employment and Training. Can you all hear me, or do I need a microphone? You can hear me? Perfect. Oh, I'm sorry. You can't. Okay. So I'm Darlene Ladd with Madison County Employment and Training. I have been with the county for 8 years. Prior to that, I started I started my career in rehab in various capacities. I worked with head trauma rehab. I did community support in St. Louis. And then I went to work for a nonprofit CRP that did skills training centers. We had supported employment, placement services, and Ability One contracting. So my experience has been pretty broad ranged in working with individuals with all different types of disabilities. Kayla Bosing, who is our business services representative with the county, she started her career with mental health services with IPS. So every customer that you're working with are customers that we have experience in working with. Just to get us started, we started working with apprenticeships because we found that there was a need. A lot of individuals, what we were finding, especially with youth coming out of the school system, was that if there wasn't something for them to go into as they were exiting school, if they weren't transitioning into a job, they were falling off a cliff, so to speak. And then 2 or 3 years later, they would be coming back into services. All right. So we're here to talk about the non-traditional apprenticeships. Go ahead. Okay, so I'm not sure how much you know about apprenticeships. An apprenticeship is an employer-driven model that can be carved and flexible to meet the employer's needs and train and develop employees. It's an earn while you learn structured education and training. So you're increasing work skills while earning a paycheck. And you can combine on-the-job training and job-related instruction that leads to the attainment of an industry-recognized credential. Coming from the workforce development side, everything that we do has to pretty much lead to either permanent or employment, full-time or gainful, and a credential. Okay, so with the Department of Labor registered apprenticeship models, there are 5 components of an apprenticeship. There's the employer involvement, industry recognized credentials, which is your Department of Labor certificate, rewards and skill gains, related instruction, and structured on-the-job training. Registered apprenticeships are registered with the U.S. Department of Labor and meet the 5 requirements that were listed above. So there's 3 types of apprenticeships: time-based, competency, and hybrid. So a time-based could potentially be your carpenters, where they go from an entry level to a journeyman and then out of to the full trade, not in the apprentice. Competency is where a person, their skill set is, they make their attainment through the competency levels that they achieve. You want to go ahead? Okay, so when we think about apprenticeships, we think of the traditional ones, right? Electricians, carpenters, welders, pipe fitters, millwrights. Well, now it's time to change what you think about apprenticeships. Okay, so we have non-traditional apprenticeships. The apprenticeships that we have been successful in having the Department of Labor recognize are housekeeping, groundskeeping, landscaping, streets department, bus sanitizer, administrative assistant, and there's also a grant with the Department of Labor that is now working with education, bioscience, and healthcare. Okay, so non-traditional apprenticeship partnerships. So it started, there was Madison County Employment and Training, Madison County High School STEP programs, and the employers. We have a nonprofit, Holly's House of Hope, who works with Madison County Employment and Training, local area employers, Division of Rehabilitation Services, and Challenge Unlimited, which all equals success. So the model. Our model is a competency-based model for our high school STEP program apprenticeship. It is 1 year in duration, and it meets the Department of Labor standards. The apprentices progress through competencies as they work. The RTI, the related training instruction, has to be a component of every apprenticeship, and that classroom training is provided by the school. So they use their STEP program hours as that time to do the RTI. Collinsville, who we originally started this project with, they use an Envision It curriculum, and they've made modifications or adjustments to adjust to what the employer needs as the students are progressing. Wages. Wages have to be at least minimum wage, and they have to have incremental increases to meet the Department of Labor apprenticeship requirements. Now, what some employers have done is they may start that student at minimum wage and give them a quarter incremental increase while they're in school. Once they complete their apprenticeship and are hired or continue to stay with the city or the employer, then they bump them up to where the other employees in that pay range are working. So they may go from 15 to 17, and some employers are just starting them out at the starting wage where everyone else is. It is required by Department of Labor that every apprenticeship has to have a mentor, and you cannot have more than 3 apprentices for every mentor that you have. So initially, when we started the apprenticeship program, I'm going to be kind of honest, the state of Illinois was like, we want to see apprenticeships rolling out. It was the hot word was apprenticeships. And so we were trying to think, how could we get something going? So we had a meeting with Collinsville. So our initial partners were the city of Collinsville, Madison County Employment and Training, and the school district STEP program and the Regional Office of Education. So Madison County Employment and Training, we are the local workforce area. Here in Illinois, we have 22 local workforce areas. So our role in the apprenticeship is that we are the sponsor with the Department of Labor, so we do the entries into RAPIDS, which is the Department of Labor way to track apprentices. We are the local workforce, AJC, so there's some things that we can cover through our local WIOA dollars. And then we enroll students into the WIOA system. We also provide OJT reimbursements to the employers. So the way that an OJT reimbursement works is that they hire the individual right out of the gate, and then we subsidize their wages. So we can pay up to 50% of the wages of the individual for up to the duration of the apprenticeship for a year. So it's not too bad for employers. That's kind of a little carrot to help dangle as well. We can also provide incumbent worker training to the employers to upskill their staff, which we have done. We have a training that we developed. It is a job coaching, communication training, because we didn't have job coaches who were able to go onto the site. So we instead trained frontline staff to be those job coaches. So we were able to pay that cost of that training for the employer. Okay, Collinsville, the city of Collinsville was our first employer. What they have done in this process is they provide job descriptions for the Department of Labor so that we're able to develop the competencies. They've hosted tours and work demonstrations for students. So what we found out through trial and error is it's really important for the individuals to come and see the work. Because I can tell you what's involved with, groundskeeping, but until you pick up a weed eater or you pick up a backpack blower or you see somebody blowing, you don't maybe always realize that that would be the job you'll be doing. So they started handling tours and demonstrations. We interview, everyone interviews who's interested in the program as any other employee would. And then they developed their mentors for the program. And then we did the training for the natural supports. Everybody in here knows what STEP is, right? You guys need me to go through STEP? Okay, well, we'll just keep going then. Okay. So the City of Collinsville Apprenticeship Program, the City of Collinsville identified the need for trained qualified employees. So Collinsville is slightly different than a lot of other cities. They have a convention center, they have a water park, they have all the ball fields, so they have a lot of things going on. And we started our project kind of the roll-off of COVID, so they were hurting for employees. So they needed trained qualified employees. The apprenticeship began with the Gateway Convention Center and Parks and Recs Department. The positions that were identified at the greatest need were in the Convention Center for housekeeping. We have events set up and removal. They are a convention center probably the size of this convention center, so they're constantly having conferences, Comic-Con, events, weddings. So there was definitely a need for that. And then groundskeeping, landscaping along with all of their parks and ball fields that they needed help with. So the timeline of events, what happened was this project came out of need. We were in conversations between the City of Highland and Collinsville High School. The City of Collinsville thought that they had some property they were going to be able to donate to the school for like a life skills center. And that didn't happen. So we were in a meeting trying to figure out what's the best way to work with students. What could we do? And again, we went back to, hey, apprenticeships are the hot thing. Let's see what we can do. So we had our initial meeting with the City of Collinsville, the high school, and Madison County Employment and Training in September of 21. The DOL approved our 3 apprenticeship tracks in 1 month. So they approved it by October of 21. So our signing ceremony was actually during National Apprenticeship Week in November of 21. So in January of 22, guess what? We were rolling. We were getting these kids into these jobs. So we had six students who were going into this apprenticeship. Positions were standard openings. We may have modified or job carved them to meet the hours that the students were available to work and to meet the Department of Labor standards. The apprentices' work schedule was from 1 to 4, Monday through Friday. We got lucky that the City of Collinsville decided they would provide transportation to the work site. So they took a shuttle, they would pick the students up at the school, and then they would bring them to the work site. With our grounds crew, we realized that wasn't efficient because then grounds would have to come pick them up from the convention center and take them to work. So then our grounds crew just got to where they would directly pick their students up right at the site. We had six step students who were hired as the first apprentices. Their disabilities range from cognitive impairments to neurodiversity, learning disabilities. They were all ages 18 to 21, and they were seniors in high school. Because our thought with this project was that we wanted them to have employment when they transitioned out of high school, so they would already be employed. So our first apprentices, I'm gonna be real honest. We had 6 kids, we had 6 jobs. We thought we had a gold mine, right? You got one for every job. Well, we rushed and we jumped into it so quickly that we really missed some steps. So initially we lost 2 students due to employee infractions. Things that anyone would have gotten fired for, they got fired for. 2 students were not appropriately job matched and made it through quite a ways into the apprenticeship, but did not meet the competencies because they didn't really want to be there, so they weren't able to complete. One student had disciplinary problems at school and was no longer able to participate. So with all of that being said, we ended up with one apprentice who successfully completed and earned his Department of Labor certificate in groundskeeping. That is Keyshawn, and he has been absolutely amazing. He still works for the city actually at this time. So here's a picture of Keyshawn. Keyshawn has now become the grounds mentor. As we've had 2 other cohorts of individuals roll in, Keyshawn now helps train them, and he tells them what they're doing wrong and what they could do better, and keeps them going. And he's definitely truly a part of the crew. Okay, so our second apprenticeship there at Collinsville Gateway Convention Center started in August of 22. What we realized is we need to have the apprenticeship mirror the school year, because when we start in January, it's a year long, so it's a calendar year long. So we're asking these seniors to start a job in January and end in January. So if they had any other desires of going away to school or doing any other things, then they wouldn't be able to complete the apprenticeship. So we decided to mirror it closely to the school year. So we started in August. So in August 22, we started a new cohort with 4 students for the city of Collinsville, 2 in Parks and Rec, 1 in housekeeping, and 1 as an event associate. These again were all Collinsville STEP program participants. All earned their Department of Labor certificate in August of 2023. All apprentices were offered employment after graduation to continue. 2 of the apprentices are working at the convention center and going to college part-time, which is also interesting from the WIOA side of the house, is that if the one individual, he's attending a WIOA program that we can pay for. So if he decides that he likes that program and wants to continue, it's a good probability we're going to pick him up and help him with that. And he wants to go into welding, and we've already been talking to another employer about a welding opportunity for him, so we're pretty excited.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is our high school model. And that's slightly different than this next model I'm going to talk to you about. This next one is Holly's House of Hope. Holly was a young lady is a young lady who was in high school, and she really, really wanted to work in retail. And unfortunately, she lived in a small town, and none of the retailers wanted to give her an opportunity to work with clothing. So her parents decided that that wasn't going to be the answer for Holly. No is not an answer. So they found Highland Hope Free Mosaic Store. And the Free Mosaic Store was a store that you could go in, and you know, if you had a need, you could have pretty much whatever was in the store. So they gave Holly an opportunity to fold clothes and start getting involved there. And so her parents, Duff and Tammy Roble, developed Holly's House of Hope, which is a nonprofit who helps individuals with employment and other vocational opportunities. Okay, so the mission of Holly's House of Hope, and I apologize, this is usually Duff's part, but he's a teacher at SIU Edwardsville, so he had to have class today, so you're stuck with me. Holly's House of Hope builds skills and provides opportunities to young adults who are uniquely able toward purpose-filled lives through service to their communities. Their focus is enhancing employment, providing social opportunities, participating in service opportunities, promoting inclusive opportunities and inclusive work in the community. Their plan is make a choice, explore the choice, test the choice, finalize the choice, get jobs, and problem solve on site. And their model is self-awareness, self-efficacy, decision-making, self-advocacy, independent performance, self-evaluation, and adjustment. Holly's House of Hope, they have a store on site. So they took the free mosaic model, and you can go into Holly's House of Hope. The nonprofits in the area have vouchers for Holly, so if they are working with, you know, an individual who maybe needs an outfit for an interview, they can give that individual a voucher and they can go into Holly's House of Hope and they can get whatever clothing they need. Or if it's a young family and they need something for their children, they could get a voucher, they can go into Holly's House of Hope and get whatever they need. Or you can go shop on Holly's House, anyone can go shop at Holly's House of Hope on certain days, certain Saturdays. So Holly's House of Hope partners with area businesses to get individuals opportunities to be into the community. They've had great success with the city of Highland. So they developed an apprenticeship program with the city of Highland. And their model is slightly different than our high school model. So theirs is a competency-based model for 2,000 hours or equals 2 years. The positions that the individuals work with Holly's House of Hope are 10 to 20 hours a week. And what we're finding on our end, just with the billing, is it's more around 10 hours a week that individuals are working. So the RTI, or the training instruction, is 144 hours, which is completed at Holly's House of Hope. They use that as part of their model. The wages have incremental increases and meet Department of Labor requirements, and they start at minimum wage. Again, you have to have 1 mentor to 3 apprentices. Okay, so the partnerships for Holly's House of Hope. Holly's House of Hope provides the RTI and the job carving for the apprenticeships and the sponsors for the apprentice. And what I would like to say is that Duff and Tammy have done a really great job of helping match their individuals to jobs that mean a lot to them. So they have an individual who works at the Cordy Rec Center who cleans. He does all different types of cleaning, and he's a great guy. He knows every Disney trivia fact there is. So usually, you know, he'll get into a conversation with someone, ask them their birthday, and can tell them, you know, what the great movie was of that time or what had happened with Disney. So the customers at the rec center love him. They come and look for him. And then he has another young man who works with the pool. And this young man, all he wants to do is be in the pool. So one of his jobs is he cleans the sides of the pool. He organizes all the pool equipment because they do water aerobics and they do different water classes. So his job is to keep all of that organized, to keep the sides of the pool clean, keep it safe, and the inside. And if you ask him, his favorite part is when he gets to get in the pool and clean the sides of the pool from the inside. And then we have another individual who always wanted to work with the police. That was like what he wanted to do, is work with the police. So Holly's House of Hope was able to job carve a position where he cleans and details police cars. And what's so great about this is this young man he's doing a fabulous job, but the safety aspect of what he's learned on the job, he knows that if there's a weapon left in the car, he's not supposed to clean that car. And Duff was actually there one day just doing a site visit, and this young man was showing him his job and opened that door, and there was the weapons. And he shut that door, and he went and got that officer and said, "You need to remove these now." And he went and removed the weapons and made sure that car was safe so it could be cleaned and detailed. So I think that just goes to show that a lot of, times we don't give individuals always the credit they need for being, detail-oriented, being able to do their jobs well. So, sorry, I deviated from my slides a little bit. But so the employer for Holly's House of Hope has been the City of Highland, the Cordy Rec Center, Public Safety, and the Parks and Rec Department. Again, Madison County Employment and Training, we do provide that on-the-job training component to the employer, the subsidy, for 50% of the wage for up to 1 year. And then we do all the rapids entries for that model. And then we have the Division of Rehabilitation, who is also a partner in this model for us, and Challenge Unlimited Incorporated, because they're providing the job coaching support. Okay, so this is hard to see, but I didn't know how many of you had ever actually seen the paperwork that you get when you do an apprenticeship. So this is the paperwork that you'll see. We'll just kind of flip through the slides so you can see what's kind of involved. You know, just keep flipping. Sure. Nobody wants me to explain it. Okay, this is Matthew. He is the very first Holly's House of Hope apprentice. He is going to actually be completing in February of 24. Okay, so the two different cohorts we have for the apprenticeships is the high school step apprenticeship program. So, you know, we've had two cohorts of students go through. We've had, you know, with those apprentices, we've had 10 and we've had 5 successful completers. Holly's House of Hope has 3 current apprentices and 1 scheduled to complete in February. Okay, so our additional projects that we've been working on with the STEP High School project is Edwardsville High School. They now have an apprenticeship with ACT Transit System, which we started in August of 23 for bus sanitizers. We are really excited to say that we have been able to move into private industry now. So West Star Aviation and Civic Memorial High School started an apprenticeship in October of this year. And then in Granite City, we have begun discussions with 2 private industries for apprentices. One would be an administrative assistant, and the other would be a parts runner. So we're pretty excited about that. Holly's House of Hope also has some new projects coming up. They're going to be working with the Highland Public Library. They're anticipated to start in November of 23. Metro East Humane Society, they're expected to start that project in November as well. And then Holly's House of Hope retail store is actually going to have Holly as an apprentice. So we're pretty excited about that. We've been pretty fortunate that the Department of Labor representative, Bruce Hollum, has been magnificent to work with. We can send him a job description, a job title, and our ideas, and Bruce will look through standards and what's been done and tell us what we can and cannot do. So that's been pretty good for us. He's definitely on board. Okay, so now that we've talked about all the great things we've done, I want to talk a little bit about some of the problems we ran into. And I know this is really hard to see. I apologize. So with our STEP program, because they were in STEP, we weren't able to get outside job coaching. So that was a little bit of a problem for us when we started. And the reason why I believe it was probably the biggest hurdle for us in the very beginning of the project was because we were just coming off COVID, and the students hadn't really been back into the classrooms for a full year or full couple of years. So they were just coming off of being at home, being through Zoom, and now we're putting them into an environment where there was a lot of different stimulus, a lot of freedom, and I just think the timing was probably poor on that as well. But we did work with the frontline staff, and they've been magnificent in a lot of the accommodations and things they've been able to do, natural supports that they've provided. One of the things that we also realized was we did not work on matching students to jobs. Like I said, I joke around all the time. We had 6 jobs, 6 students. We thought we were doing great. What we didn't realize is one of our groundskeepers, she didn't want to get dirty. So yeah, it's real hard to do grounds when you don't want to get dirty. So we tried everything like coveralls. We got her some stylish blue coveralls to wear over her clothes. Well, that really wasn't stylish for her, so she didn't want to do that. So we realized pretty quickly on that we should have done some job matching. You know, we should have really explored with the students, hey, would you like to do these jobs? Not, oh, hey, job for you, job for you, job for you. And our frontline staff really weren't prepared to job coach, mentor, and train. You know, these are folks who just did their job every day, and then we threw 6, 2 bodies in each work site at them. And it was like, oh boy, okay. So what happened was our director, Tony Furman, and myself, we were in Collinsville for another meeting. And he said, let's stop by and see how everyone's doing. And I said, oh, perfect idea. What could be wrong with that? Let's do it. Well, we walked in on the back end of a meeting between the general manager and the HR director about how things were not going well. And so we were like, ooh, okay, maybe we need to be talking and doing something here. So we started having roundtable meetings, and these are very honest meetings. Everyone leaves their ego at the door. There's no idea of, well, my student wouldn't do that, or that's not how we should do it. So we had really regular, honest discussions about what was working with the students and what wasn't. One of the things we found out were cell phones were a real problem for our students at the convention center because they had free Wi-Fi. So guess what? They're at school all day. They can't have their phone. Now they're at work. And when you have a convention center like this, it's real easy to kind of get lost and be caught, hey, I'm surfing, I'm talking to my boyfriend, I'm doing all kinds of great stuff. So we realized cell phones were a problem. So we had to come up with like a cell phone policy, which we did. And so everyone can check their phone in when they get to work. It's still accessible to them if they need to go get it for a reason, but it's not on their person. And they carry a radio now, so that's a little different. And then we realized that the frontline staff, we just kind of threw them in. So we provided them some training, and it's actually a curriculum that we developed in association with Blue Tower Training, and it's Job Coaching for Success. And a lot of it is about communication, how to communicate with other people. If you see someone is getting frustrated, how to kind of maybe de-escalate that situation just a little bit. What works best for the person. We also came up with student handbooks because when we started this, we didn't have student handbooks. We just put people in jobs because that's what they need. So we came up with a student handbook that really outlined for the student workers how to call off. What are the expectations at work? What's the dress code? Can you eat at work? Where does your phone go? So that really helped because they were able to understand what the expectations were also of them at work. We also went and started having meetings in the beginning with the parents, the school, and the work site. So we have a big meeting as soon as everyone goes through the interview process. And if they're hired for the position, we have a meeting with everyone. Because what we were also finding out was individuals didn't understand what an apprenticeship was. They were thinking of this as a cohort or just a co-op job. Well, it's not a co-op job because we have a year-long commitment, and it's not a school year, it's a calendar year. So we started to explain a little bit more thoroughly what an apprenticeship was, and once you receive that Department of Labor certificate, if you're doing event setup in Collinsville, Illinois, I should be able to bring that certificate here if my family moves. And I can show that I'm proficient in pipe and drape, table setup, takedown. I can read a room schematic because those are in my proficiencies. So then I should be able to get a job here with probably a little less persuasion than I would otherwise. So as we move through, this model continues to change and grow with every cohort we start. And one of the things that we realized is that, and I, this kind of came back to my past of working in rehab, is that we weren't prepared for anyone who was receiving benefits, because we hadn't had any families yet who were receiving SSI. So what we did then is we started, we got the information to do the WIPA referrals so that we could get them information about how it would affect their benefits. Some people like to read it first, so oddly enough, we did. We got the red book, and here's your red book if this is what you choose. And so then we started working further with support staff. We got the 10 tips for job success from ICSPS, and we've been providing that to support staff. We also did something very different this year, and we call it the student cheat sheets. But what it is, it's either short narratives, but it's in the student's words. We're not doing this on behalf of the student. This is the student telling the employer how they learn best. And we can either write it and then give it to the employer, or they can verbally tell the employer how they learn best. And that's truly coming back to what we want, right? Our self-advocacy for our youth to be able to say, hey, I do best with demonstration and modeling, or hey, if you show me what to do, I can do it, but I don't read well. or, I like pictures. So those are the things that we've been working with the students from the schools to do. We also have had individuals recently in the last 2 cohorts with seizure disorders. So we have been providing training for seizure disorders and how to administer care and what to do in the event that a worker would have a seizure, which again is not bad training for anyone to have, whether you're working with a student with a seizure disorder or you're working at a convention center and somebody has a seizure. Okay, so steps for replication. If you are interested in having an apprenticeship, you need to find the job, find the pain points. Most jobs can be carved down and modified. What is the essential functions? What do you need someone to do? And if this sounds a little bit like customized employment job carving, because it is, it's very similar. Find the champion if you're an employer, or even if you are a CRP or a nonprofit, find your champion. Who is going to be the person who's invested in seeing this project work? Who's going to be the problem solver? Who wants to work with the apprentices, frontline staff, other agencies, or employers? Find that person. Who are your partners going to be? Is it going to be your high school? Is it going to be DRS? Is it going to be your nonprofits, your workforce departments, AJC like our office? It's always going to be the Department of Labor, but you need to identify your partners. Communicate. Throughout all of our models, if we did not openly communicate, this would not have gone anywhere, because the city of Collinsville, when we were bombing it like right out of the gate, if they weren't committed and we didn't have champions on that staff, it would have never lasted. It wouldn't have gone as far as it's gone. And communicate with the apprentices. They need to understand what they're a part of. This is a big project, and what we found is that with explaining to our apprentices, especially in the newer cohorts, like with private industry, that you're the first person to do this in this area, in this industry. And I'll tell you what, the pride that sits up in that chair at that point in time, and the staff, the frontline staff, when we explain, you're the first one in our area to do this. You've got a solid buy-in, and that's helpful, because it helps them understand what it's about. And then develop your model. Your model might look totally different than our model, but develop the model, and you get your standards done, and figure out who's got the roles and responsibilities, who needs to do what within the model. This is our contact information as well. So, okay, I talk fast. So do we have questions?
I think you have the clip.
Oh, I do have a video. I do.
Okay.
So as Robin had mentioned, we have gotten lots of press coverage for our apprenticeships. City of Highland, we've done wonderful with the press coverage. We've been very fortunate that they have found a lot of value in what we're doing, and we're grateful for that. So I do have a video of our first apprentice's mother. I hope it works. She was being interviewed by Fox 2 News.
Terica, what has this meant for you? And your husband's here, he's in the background here, but what has this meant to you and your husband to see Keyshawn develop and grow like this?
A burden lifted. As a parent, you're always worried about what's going to happen to your children at this age and what resources are there. This program just opened the door for him and much more other people. It's just a great thing that's going on. And
when they first told you about it, what did you think?
I did not know it was this. I just thought it was a program to help him build job skills. I did not know that it was a city of Collinsville and it was this important until one day I just got a call and they was like, this is it. And I'm like, oh, really? So I'm just very thankful, and I just hope it takes off, because as parents of kids with disabilities, we want them to have a future, and they can. They're capable of the work. They're capable of communication. It just takes patience and repetition.
Okay. I would like to say one more thing about Keyshawn is starting a second job next week at a local area restaurant. So he is our celebrity, and yeah, he's doing great. And we're excited that because the city of Collinsville is only part-time, and so he wants more hours and he wants more to do. So he's going to go work at a local area restaurant, which actually is in his wheelhouse as well, because when he was in high school, he worked at the cafeteria. And the parents had told us that he wanted to go back to the school and work in the cafeteria. And I was like, why? Let's do something else. So he interviewed with a local restaurant, and he is starting there next week. I did not bring any of that. Come on. I don't have these releases. I don't.
Well, they have some really great videos of the students being interviewed on the news and all of that, so I'm going to try to see if we can't get those tracked down to share with you, because really, I think it's it makes a larger impact when you see who exactly it is that they are employing and putting through these apprenticeship programs. It's hard whenever you don't see the person and you're not listening to them communicate, and when you do see that, you will see some of your own customers in that person, and so you maybe will reimagine the possibilities of what might be available and what you could do to set up a good work opportunity for your people. So I'm hopeful that we can do something, because I think it really makes the difference to see.
And if you just go out
the
to
student.
Fox 2 News, I'm sure you could Google it and
Maybe while we're doing the roundtable, I'll try to find it, so then we can show that as a closing. So, Jim, where did you run off to? Okay. So we're going to do our roundtable discussions here. Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry.
Anybody have any questions for our friends from Madison County?
No questions at all? Come on. Come on. Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much. It
Oh,
was
someone
wonderful.
has a question.
Oh.
Brian has a question. Sure.
Help is on the way.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. We're working on another project on apprenticeships for with Illinois DRS. I'm wondering, what are some of the processes that have worked well as it relates to apprenticeships, being a partner with DRS customers and the DRS staff, including counselors that worked, or that challenges you may have had as well, and then how did you address those to bridge your system and their system together to make progress on the accomplishments related to apprenticeship?
Sure, and to answer that, I'll just, on my end, again, because they were step students, we weren't able to utilize job coaching because they were getting a step outcome. So we had to make a decision, did we not want them to get their step outcome or coaching? So for the high school model, that was slightly different. I do know with the Holly's House of Hope, Duff has said that kind of he can have the Department of Labor in line, and he has his person. And the part he hates the most is between all of our government bureaucracies, just how long it takes to get them through your enrollment process. Then you got your job coaching agency, that's a process as well. We're a process too. The local workforce area, we want everything from everyone. So we require a lot of documentation. We require testing that isn't really appropriate for our customers, but it's a placeholder, and we have to do that testing. So I know, speaking, from what Duff has expressed, it's that time frame on how it takes so long to get this wheel turning and this wheel turning, and we're not always all turning at the same time, and so it slows him down. Did I answer your question? Okay, and I have to apologize because that's really, we handle the back end for that project, but
I would add that it's
mentioned on. I'm not a microphone person. It's the support that comes from the family too. So, you know, if you, like even in Duff's scenario, like I do a lot of the paperwork, that's my burden. But if we have parents, you know, even with our adult population that we're working with, if we have parents who are supportive and know where to find that birth certificate, or, oh, I'll take them today and get those documents, that goes a long way. Because a lot of times, even in these models, it's supported. You know, this is customized in a lot of ways, so they need that assistance from family and friends to be like, I can take them here and help them get these things to you. That goes a long way. And then on the Bruce end of it, I would say with Department of Labor, yes, he will say, I don't understand that grants world of things. You know, he's very like open to say, if I send him a job description and say this company wants this is what they're thinking, he'll send us whatever's already out there, and then we can take it to the employer, and the employer can say, well, I like this, but not this. And he'll tell us we can tweak it however we need to, as long as it still fits the bubble, it's passable.
And back to your presentation, and we haven't encountered this yet, but I'm waiting to see what happens with benefits like the SSI when someone meets their threshold of earnings. What's going to happen during that apprenticeship model? Are they going to complete it, or what are we going to be looking at? So we haven't met that yet, but I'm waiting. I'm sure it's going to happen. So we've been trying to, put out there also for our young adults about ABLE accounts and things of that nature too, to try and help them through that, because this is all a new world, and especially for the high school students moving out, who maybe the parents they've been used to the school system, so now they're navigating an adult system as well. Any other questions?
Well, I found the video. So, can you help me with? You may have to endure a 27-second ad.
Oh, the other thing that we have done is we give mentor awards now for outstanding mentors through our apprenticeship program. So if we have a mentor who steps out and is really, really working with them, we honor them when we give the Department of Labor certificate. So what we've done is to give out the certificate when the apprentice is complete. We've been doing it in a city of Collinsville councilman meeting. So we've had almost every level of government represented there, giving the students their Department of Labor certificate. And then last cohort, we had Representative Katie Stewart there and gave them an Illinois, letter from the state of Illinois to go with it. So it was pretty exciting.
All right, let's see if this gives us what I was.
Collinsville has a new employee. He was the first for disabled students, bringing together federal, state, and local agencies. New at 10, Fox News' Jeff Bernthal reports on a surprise twist to the recognition ceremony during this week's Collinsville City Council meeting.
Put them in the hole.
They are digging dirt.
Looks good.
And planting bulbs.
And all kinds of pretty flowers come spring. Everyone will love it. Love it, yeah.
Collinsville Parks employee Keyshawn Thomas is working with mentor Michael Dowell.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be looking real good.
Even in the middle of winter, they are warming hearts.
Keyshawn's great, he's kind of like a Mr. Sunshine kind of thing, comes in and brightens everybody's day usually.
I did cut grass and weed eat, chop grass. I do baseball fields and I drive a frog.
Very proud. He's been breaking milestones since he was 3 years old, being diagnosed with autism.
Keyshawn's mother came to Collinsville City Hall to see her son honored.
Keyshawn, if you could come up and join this group.
For completing a year-long apprenticeship program for students with disabilities and landing employment with with the city of Collinsville.
Oh, this is what you live for, these moments. I think as, public servants, sometimes you wonder how much what you do impacts people.
The program involves the U.S. Department of Labor, Madison County Employment and Training Department, the city of Collinsville, and the Collinsville School District.
Well, I'm going to try not to cry, but I'm just so excited for him and for the future students that could be part of this program as well.
An unexpected twist was a surprise recognition given to Dow for his role as Keyshawn's mentor.
This is something that I'm hoping brings more attention to something that is great and I hope grows, and we're able to build it even more from here. It's just a start.
The awards presentation is not the end of this story. There are 4 other students currently enrolled in the apprenticeship program, and there is hopes that this program will go well beyond here.
In addition to here, we're talking to other school districts in our area to see how we can take this program and take it to the other school districts. We hope to take this nationally at some point and share it with the country.
Keyshawn, can you smile?
Reporting from Collinsville, Jeff Bernthal, Fox 2 News.
Can I add one last thing? I keep thinking of things because, like I said, this is an ongoing model. So the city of Collinsville, with this last round of cohort of students, the city of Collinsville, we were working with a young man. They opened a new apprenticeship area in the streets department. And we screened this young man for WIOA eligibility, and he didn't meet it because he works. He likes to work. And when Kayla would ask him what jobs he does, he goes, I do all the jobs. And so this young man worked and earned so much, he didn't meet our income guidelines. So we told the city, we said, you're more than welcome to put him into the apprenticeship, and we'll put him into Rapids, and we will, we'll do case management on the side like we were doing with our enrolled customers, but we can't give you a subsidy. And they said, who cares? We want him, and we're going to bring him in. We don't need the subsidy. So that just goes to show that the model is working. The city finds value in it, and they're even willing to take people who qualify and are good employees are willing to take them without a subsidy, which is ideally what you want for an apprenticeship. You want it to come to a point where it's an automatic machine, so to speak, and they're not relying on our subsidies. They found a way to make it work for themselves. So just thought I'd share that. I will be done now. Hand it to Jeff.
Well, I think, as we think, what is running through my head here is as we think about moving forward with this project, and one of the areas is that we have decided is probably going to be a little bit of a challenge is working with the transition age youth and getting into the school districts in our catchment areas with this. And this may be a perfect opportunity and one of the solutions for doing that. So I think that's something we would definitely need to have a conversation about. So, thank you. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So what we want to do next is we want to do a little bit of networking. We have some 12 stakeholders who have graciously agreed to lend their time to us today. Their agencies are listed on the signs on the various tables. So what we would ask at this point is to just do some networking, make some new friends, figure out what services these agencies provide, how they can connect, how they can assist with the conditions of the SWTCIE project. Some are state agencies, some are private agencies. So we're going to take the next hour or so and just kind of walk around and say hello to each other and like I say, do a little networking. So you're on your own.
Okay. We're going to wrap up here. So Director Patrick, unfortunately, was not able to come see us in person, and we thought that might be the case. So she's done a little video to kind of close this, to start the closing out, and then our Chief of Staff, Andy Lasasso, is going to say a couple of words after this.
Hi, I am Renee Patrick, the Director of the Division of Rehabilitation Services. And I am proud to be part of the work to have competitive integrated employment to be the only option in the state of Illinois. That the state of Illinois is a beautiful state with so many hardworking, dedicated people working toward equity for people with disabilities. People with disabilities have enormous talents that are critical to our organization, to the country, to our state, to our communities that deserve to be paid minimum wage and above. And so when we are paying people with disabilities piece rate, we are not recognizing the deep contribution that the experience of people with disabilities brings to our everyday lives. This project is a change agent for how the state of Illinois, how the Division of Rehabilitation Services and Division of the Illinois Department of Human Services approaches employment for people with the most significant disabilities. This will allow our towns, our communities, our companies across our state to be able to transform, to provide wraparound services, and to be able to assist people with disabilities to be able to balance the Social Security supplemental income that they might be getting, along with getting wages from their own labor, which overall, they will make more money. And we, as a state, will benefit in a way that not only will bring in revenue to our companies, but it also will help us to demonstrate the high value that we have for people with disabilities. I am so excited to be a part of this change, and I thank you all so much for participating in this project.
Thank you, Director. And I'm also going to put our, if you didn't get to do the survey yesterday, I'm going to pull that up here so that you can complete the survey before you leave. But Andy said he was going to put his tap shoes on and do a little dance.
I forgot my flaming chainsaws, so sorry, no juggling. I realize that I am the last thing standing between you and the road, so I will keep it brief. Thank you all. But I'd also like to give thanks, starting with our lovely interpreters. Thank you for helping us out today. I know that there's a lot of options out there to work, so thank you for choosing this one for us. Also want to thank our AV crew for simulcasting everything for us. Thank you. Our partners at UIUC, thank you so much for housing us. I also want to call special attention to our SWTCIE program staff, namely our own Robin Lewis from DRS, Jim Knopf in the background, and where's the rest of our UIC partners? You guys kind of scattered. But thank you all so much for helping us get this kickoff going today. And most of all, thanks to you all. You are the doers. You are the ones that are going to make this possible. You are the six that are going to go forth and prove that we can blaze a path for those that are behind us. I echo everything the director said. That's one of the reasons I came to work for her, was we have aligned ideologies, and it is not right to pay someone less simply because they are disabled. So thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your time and the gift of spending it with us over the last 2 days. Everybody, please drive safely. And you have all the contact info. We put up QRs. We've got email packets going out afterwards. And if you have any questions, please just ask. We are here to support you through this process. And thank you for being our partner. Thank you so much. Drive safe.
Thank you. I did have one thing that I forgot to tell you guys yesterday. Those of you who are doing the ACRE training, if you're having any technical difficulties, please reach out to us. But was also told that Google Chrome is the best browser to use for that coursework. So that was just a little tip somebody wanted to share.
Is that the same from the survey?
The survey from yesterday, yes, it's the same. Yeah, if you did it yesterday, you're all good. And please, all of the materials from this workshop will be uploaded to the website. So you guys have the website on all of your printed materials here, so make sure that you are going there to look for it. So, all right, I don't have anything else, do you? It's been really a pleasure to spend a day and a half with everybody learning. And I hope you're leaving with some ideas and feeling motivated and feeling, understanding the impact that our work is going to have. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you.